Everything began inside a tomb, where a young man stood on the brink of death, facing a gigantic basilisk. His name was Seo Jong-hyun, a tomb raider. The world Jong-hyun lived in had changed drastically. In the year 2025, various tombs had appeared across the world. These tombs were linked to myths, fairy tales, legends, folklore, and poetry. Each tomb contained relics of immense power. Many stories told of people whose lives changed drastically after obtaining a relic from these tombs. The great power of these relics drove everyone to become tomb explorers. Seo Jong-hyun was one of the luckiest. He had acquired a relic called the Archaist, which granted him an unparalleled ability to analyze tombs. This ability made him the greatest tomb excavator in the world. Unfortunately, he could no longer explore tombs alone. Governments and large corporations had begun to control them, seeking to monopolize the relics. Because of this, he joined TKBM, a highly renowned tomb excavation company. With the Archaist, Jong-hyun helped TKBM rise to the top of the industry, even though many mocked him as nothing more than TKBM's lapdog. But in return, TKBM treated him poorly. Their CEO, Kwon Tae-jun, saw Jong-hyun's team as a threat and deliberately trapped them inside a perilous tomb, leading them to a grim fate. Just before the basilisk devoured him, Jong-hyun heard a voice calling for help, but it was already too late. Half of his body had been crushed. However, just before he met his end, the relic that had accompanied him for so long suddenly revealed itself. A raven appeared before him, offering him a second chance to see if this time he could become a king. After the relic's intervention, Jong-hyun awoke in a panic, his body completely intact. He quickly realized he was inside a police station. In his confusion, he gradually understood the situation. He had returned 15 years into the past. He was now reliving the moment when he had been blackmailed by a mother and son. Now, knowing that he had returned to a time before the tombs had appeared, Jong-hyun made a firm decision. In this second chance, he would claim every relic and never be deceived again. Lost in his thoughts, Jong-hyun suddenly realized that he was back in an annoying moment. He was once again faced with the mother and son who were extorting him. But this time, things were different. Jong-hyun could now properly defend himself, even if it meant ending up in prison. In fact, Jong-hyun had deliberately gotten himself imprisoned because he knew that once the tombs started appearing, no prison could hold anyone. While in his cell, Jong-hyun also realized that he could see system notifications, just like in a game. At first, he was irritated by the system, but he soon came to understand that it could actually support him in his adventure inside the tombs. Shortly after, a police officer came to take Jong-hyun out of his cell. It was Detective Kim Yeon-woo, the man who had become his adoptive older brother since he became an orphan. On the way home, Jong-hyun asked about the supernatural phenomenon, but Detective Kim had no knowledge of it. As they parted ways, Jong-hyun unexpectedly ran into 4 thugs he knew. At that moment, he realized that his financial troubles were finally about to be solved. These 4 thugs were black market workers. Jong-hyun had once worked for them as a porter, which was why he knew very well that they were criminals. Without mercy, Jong-hyun beat them all up. To his surprise, he hit the jackpot. He discovered that the daggers the thugs were holding were actually relics. Without hesitation, he seized the relics and used them against them. The relics had the ability to reveal the weak points of all of Jong-hyun's opponents, making it even easier for him to take them down. After dealing with them, Jong-hyun took the wages they had withheld and a mysterious object they had been guarding. Meanwhile, the boss of the 4 thugs was furious. He couldn't believe that Jong-hyun was this strong. Jong-hyun then went to a thrift store nearby, only to find out that the Buddha statue he was holding had no value at all. However, he soon received a notification that the real treasure was hidden inside the statue. Without hesitation, Jong-hyun smashed it open, revealing a stash of illegal drugs inside. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Jong-hyun immediately contacted Detective Kim and reported his findings. Thanks to his tip, the gang leader was arrested, along with all the evidence that Jong-hyun had uncovered. According to the local law, whistleblowers in such cases could receive a reward of up to 100 million yen. With that in mind, Jong-hyun walked home with a beaming smile, knowing he was about to come into a fortune. Unfortunately, as he arrived at his house, his excitement quickly turned into shock. His home had vanished, swallowed by a massive mound of earth. The people in the area were, of course, in a panic, especially with the military aiming their weapons, making everything even more chaotic. That was why Jong-hyun struck the uniformed man and demanded an explanation. He soon discovered that the Korean government was collaborating with foreign entities to resolve the phenomenon. On the other side, Linda Walker, an American agent, and Abe Kiyoshi from Japan met. Both of them were foreign operatives who already knew about the existence of the tomb and the relics that might be inside. However, they were competing against each other and had no intention of cooperating. Upon learning this, Jong-hyun realized he had to move quickly to find the entrance to the tomb. Jong-hun eventually obtained the tomb glyph, an inscription that detailed everything about the tomb. Around this time, Jong-hyun also acquired his second skill. After searching for quite some time, Jong-hyun finally found the tomb's entrance. Using the relic dagger he held, a massive explosion occurred. When the tomb opened, agents from America and Japan also realized that the entrance had been unsealed. Both of them rushed toward the tomb's entrance, knowing they had to jump down. Upon reaching the bottom, they found the tomb flooded with water. Aware of this, Jong-un activated the tomb's trap. Water surged inside, sweeping away the American and Japanese agents. As he ventured deeper, Jong-hyun arrived at a vast pool and presented his relic. A giant serpent emerged and asked, "Which dagger belongs to you, Jong-hyun? The gold one or the silver one?" Jong-hyun recognized this as a trap, inspired by the tale of Hermes and the cute woodcutter. Refusing both, he instead took his original relic. However, the moment he grasped his dagger, he launched an attack on the tomb's guardian. The guardian fought back, but Jong-hyun knew exactly what to do. He activated his domination skill. To master a relic within a tomb, there are at least 3 skills that can be used. The first is affinity, where the relic submits peacefully. The second is domination, where the relic is forced into submission by the user's strength. The third is fit force, an anomaly where the relic and its user are naturally created for each other. Jong-hyun knew that he could only use domination on the relic in the current tomb. After a prolonged struggle, he finally managed to subdue it, revealing itself as a golden axe. This success unlocked Jong-hyun's third skill, Tomb Digger. Shortly after obtaining the relic, American and Japanese agents arrived inside the tomb, only to be met with disappointment. Since Jong-hyun had completed the tomb, he had the right to close it. Thus, at his command, the tomb began to collapse. Upon leaving the tomb, Jong-hyun realized that his house had returned to normal. At this point, he had officially begun his main mission, gathering information about the CEO of TKBM, the man who had betrayed him in his previous life. The next day, Jong-hyun began to sense the presence of the TKBM CEO. That's why he contacted the 4 thugs from earlier and sent them to Midas, a prestigious auction house in Vegas. Jong-hyun wasn't asking for a favor for free. He promised to pay them handsomely if they could find a man named Black Cayman, the alias of Kwon Tae-jun. After involving the thugs, Jong-hyun quickly set off to carry out his plan for the day, hunting relics. During his journey, he unexpectedly crossed paths with Abe Kiyoshi from Japan. Jong-hyun knew about Abe's presence because Japan had seers capable of predicting the location of ancient tombs. Wanting to uncover Abe's relic, Jong-hyun intentionally spilled beer, but he refrained from taking further action to avoid unnecessary trouble. Shortly after they parted ways, Abe received a phone call from a Japanese seer, informing him that the previous relic conqueror was none other than Jong-hyun, the very man he had just encountered. After arriving at the site where the tomb was set to appear, Jong-hyun once again encountered Abe. However, before Abe could do anything, the tomb's entrance suddenly opened and exploded. It turned out that they had entered the cursed sword tomb of Muramasa. This tomb originated from the legend of a Japanese swordsmith family that was exterminated by Ieyasu Tokugawa through a sword known as Muramasa. Because of this, the tomb was filled with traps and broken swords scattered throughout its interior. Jong-hyun also started to feel a dense poison spreading inside, forcing him to hurry. Abe, who was there, attempted to use his gun, but it backfired and exploded on its own. Modern weapons were useless inside the tomb. Seizing the opportunity, Jong-hyun threw Abe into a pit filled with living corpses, trapping him and rendering him unable to move. Venturing deeper, Jong-hyun obtained 2 additional relics, a bracelet and a mochi. These relics were inspired by classic Japanese folklore. The mochi requested by a tiger and a rope that descended from the sky to save the mochi's owner. Upon acquiring these relics, Jong-hyun unlocked a new skill, completing the 4 fundamental skills he needed. It was only after that moment that he realized the tomb was filled with trapped civilians. Upon closer inspection, there was already a girl rampaging under the influence of a relic. Jong-hyun immediately restrained her using the rope relic he had obtained. When he held the relic the girl had been using, he realized it was useless. After that, Jong-hyun proceeded to free everyone from the trap. Meanwhile, the Japanese agent was furious for still not obtaining Muramasa. Before he could get his hands on the relic, he was beaten up by everyone for being the reason they were all trapped in the first place. Amidst the chaos, Jong-hyun used the golden axe to summon Muramasa. When it appeared, he held it and demanded 10 lives, sending everyone into a panic. Of course, Jong-hyun had no intention of doing such a thing. Instead, he dominated Muramasa. At last, Muramasa submitted and reached its perfect form. Now, Jong-hyun only needed to seal the tomb. The Japanese agent Abe also wanted to escape, but upon hearing that he had been working with TKBM, Jong Hyun kicked him back inside just as the tomb collapsed. After leaving the tomb, it was revealed that relics could move on their own, like Muramasa, which was displeased about being kept in a bag and ended up being thrown into a closet. At this moment, Jong Hyun also realized that he had sustained injuries due to the side effects of domination. These wounds could worsen over time, but he had no other options. Just then, the system sent Jong Hyun a notification regarding affinity and domination. Without hesitation, he chose domination, as it was the ability he frequently relied on. As a result, he received a pill that granted immunity to domination side effects. Jong Hyun immediately recognized that this pill was ridiculously overpowered. After Muramasa's tomb was sealed, the event became an international headline. Japan was blamed for endangering civilians, which enraged the Japanese government. In response, Boss Ob vowed to capture Jong Hyun in the near future. Meanwhile, Jong Hyun received a call from one of his hired thugs in Vegas, informing him that the person he was searching for was likely there. However, Jong Hyun couldn't leave immediately, as he had just received a notification that an S-rank relic user had marked him. Realizing the danger, he decided to delay his trip to Vegas and prepare for his next move. The S-rank relic mentioned in Jong Hyun's notification turned out to be a book titled The Future, written by Shotoku Fusa. This relic did not emerge from a tomb, but instead chose its own owner. Its current owner was Sasaki Yuki. No matter what Yuki did, whether he ran, buried it, or threw it away, the book would always reappear. The Japanese government, aware of the relic's existence, decided to sponsor Yuki's improved lifestyle. Unfortunately, in Jong Hyun's previous life, this book also led to Yuki's tragic end. Now, Yuki had grown up and had an important duty, reading the future for the Japanese government. However, today's prophecy was terrifying. He foresaw that he would meet his end at the hands of a Korean. This was due to Jong Hyun arriving in Japan on that very day. Naturally, the Japanese government was on high alert. They set a trap for Jong Hyun in a sushi shop, using Yuki as bait. Unexpectedly, instead of cooperating, Yuki became mesmerized by Jong Hyun's handsome face and shut the door to the room. Seizing the opportunity, Jong Hyun attacked everyone outside and took Yuki with him, escaping from the restaurant. Jong Hyun unexpectedly took Yuki away, escaping from the dull grip of the Japanese government. As a naive girl, Yuki agreed without hesitation. However, when they arrived at a cafe, her hands were suddenly tied, and she was forced to transcribe as much of the future book's contents as possible to spare her life. Moments later, the Japanese authorities arrived, abruptly halting Yuki's writing. Instead of ending Yuki's life, Jong Hyun did something unexpected. He destroyed the future relic right in front of her eyes. The Japanese forces stormed in, only to witness their most revered relic crumbling into ruins. Furious, the Japanese military immediately ordered an attack on Jong Hyun. After being attacked, Jong Hyun threw a mochi relic. This relic had the ability to sow discord among anyone nearby, causing the entire army there to turn on each other. Jong Hyun then arrived at the airport, and while on the plane, he began reading the prophecy written by Yuki. Jong Hyun knew that in his past life, the CEO of TKBM had met Yuki to obtain the world's greatest relic. As he read the prophecy, he realized that the place where the TKBM CEO acquired the best relic was Midas, Las Vegas. On the American agent's side, they had also heard about the destruction of the future relic. However, they had a different approach. Instead of attacking Jong Hyun, they wanted to recruit him to America with the lure of money. Knowing about Midas, Jong Hyun rushed to Vegas and gathered all his subordinates there. After learning that the TKBM CEO might be present, Jong Hyun decided to participate in the auction. He checked the auction list and discovered that the relics he needed were the Shakespeare relic and the Hammurabi relic. Upon hearing that their boss intended to join the auction, Jong Hyun's subordinates panicked. However, they calmed down when Jong Hyun assured them he had a solution. After all, they were in Vegas, the land of gambling, where anything was possible. For Jong Hyun, making money in Vegas was not difficult. Every casino he entered always ended with a jackpot. In fact, he made an extraordinary amount of money in just a short time. He won so much that the casino management suspected him of cheating and decided to investigate him. Truthfully, Jong Hyun was cheating. He carried a golden axe that allowed him to see which slot machines were about to pay out. However, the golden axe remained undetected, since it had transformed into a mere souvenir, one of the unique abilities of relics, which could change their appearance at will. Even after raking in so much money, Jong Hyun was not satisfied. So, after a meal, he moved to an even bigger casino. This time, he was determined to win even more. Unfortunately, something felt off about this place. Many things were broken, and the atmosphere was strange. Jong Hyun quickly realized that there was a relic nearby. That relic turned out to be a silver sword. While the golden axe revealed luck, the silver sword had the ability to expose misfortune. It wasn't long before Jong Hyun noticed a beautiful girl named Irene Holton. In Jong Hyun's previous life, Irene was known as one of the kings due to her body's resemblance to a relic. She was infamous as the king of bankruptcy. Anyone or anything near her would be struck by misfortune. Realizing this, Jong Hyun wanted to leave the casino as fast as possible. But something unexpected happened. Irene suddenly reached for his hand, her face lighting up with happiness. When he held her, the system notified Jong Hyun that his strength was drastically declining. That's why he brushed off Irene's hand and tried to escape. However, Jong Hyun's subordinates refused to let Irene be left behind. Unfortunately for them, they were the ones who ended up unlucky. Jong Hyun then warned everyone to stay away from Irene. Jong Hyun headed to the auction house. There, he hit the jackpot after encountering Yoon Si-woo, the son-in-law of TKBM's CEO. Not long after, the CEO himself, Kwon Tae-jun, appeared. Jong Hyun's emotions flared as memories of his past life resurfaced, but he had to stay calm. His revenge wasn't due yet. Lost in thought, he suddenly realized that misfortune was spreading to everyone around him, including Kwon Tae-jun, whose company had just caught fire. It was at that moment that Jong Hyun noticed Irene had been following him. Irene was well aware that she brought ruin to everyone she encountered. That's why she wanted to ask Jong Hyun how someone could become lucky. After all, he had just won big in Vegas. Jong Hyun initially wanted to run away, but the system notified him that he was gradually developing an immunity to Irene's misfortune. Seeing an opportunity, Jong Hyun decided to use this to his advantage in the auction. He invited Irene inside, intending to turn her into a curse for his bidding rivals. The auction began with more than 80% of the attendees choosing not to participate due to Irene's power. Jong Hyun also noticed that Kwon Tae-jun remained present, which signified that there was indeed a valuable item up for bidding. At this moment, Jong Hyun also realized the true nature of Irene's power. When her mood improved and she became happier, her bankruptcy-inducing ability grew even stronger. This power was so intense that even Jong Hyun's relic seemed to scream in response. After a complex bidding session, the auction finally reached its climax. The auction house unveiled a plant resembling a bonsai. Only Kwon Tae-jun and Jong Hyun knew that this was actually a priceless relic, the Qin Shi Huang's fire. This relic originated from the legend of China's first emperor, who sought the elixir of immortality. The tree was said to be the very symbol of eternal life. It possessed the power to heal diseases caused by other relics. In Jong Hyun's previous life, Kwon Tae-jun had only paid him with the fruit from this tree as compensation, despite the fact that Jong Hyun constantly lived in danger. This was why the two of them engaged in an intense bidding war until Kwon Tae-jun finally offered $10 million. Jong Hyun knew that competing financially against the CEO of TKBM was pointless, so he decided to use Irene's power to win instead. The power in question was, of course, not the power of bankruptcy, but Irene's financial strength. Kwon Tae-jun might be the CEO of a major company, but Irene was the heir of the wealthy Holton family. That was why she could win with a bid of up to $50 million. After winning, Irene sat down with Jong Hyun, and the two of them looked for a way to eliminate Irene's bankruptcy power. At first, Jong Hyun thought that Irene possessed a relic, but that wasn't the case. It turned out that Irene, like Yuki, had a tattoo because she was highly compatible with a certain relic. However, Irene's tattoo was vastly different. It was a parasite that couldn't be cured, as the power of the relic had embedded itself within her. At least for now, Jong Hyun was still figuring out how to lift Irene's curse. That's why they exchanged contacts, and Irene gave Jong Hyun the Qin Shi Huang fire relic. Jong Hyun could only claim all the items he had won once the auction house received his payment. Unfortunately, his money was stolen by his own subordinates. In the end, Jong Hyun tracked them down with the help of the golden axe. But he wasn't just there to take back his money. He also wanted to test his new relic, Hammurabi. This relic originated from the Babylonian story of its laws, which dictated that punishment must be equal to the crime. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and betrayal for betrayal. With the Hammurabi relic, Jong Hyun sealed the three people in front of him. To them, nothing felt different. But in reality, Jong Hyun had already established a subordinate contract with two of them. He had no intention of torturing them. On the contrary, he even promised fair wages if they did their job well, along with a decent place to live. That was why they all agreed. And Jong Hyun also took the opportunity to tell them that the world was about to change. The next day, Jong Hyun assigned his subordinates to take care of Qin Shi Huang's fire. The night before, he had tried to control the relic using domination, but it was unsuccessful. Surprisingly, his subordinates turned out to be more more compatible with handling Qin Shi Huang's fire, as the relic seemed pleased with them. Shortly after, Jong Hyun received a call from Kwon Taek-jun. The man had used his network to gather information about Jong Hyun and was now offering a deal to obtain Qin Shi Huang's fire. However, Jong Hyun couldn't care less and immediately hung up. This, of course, enraged Kwon Taek-jun, especially toward his son-in-law who had held him back at the auction. Feeling responsible, the son-in-law swore that he would obtain the Qin Shi Huang relic himself. Jong Hyun already knew he would be targeted, so he had prepared a trap in advance. The two finally met in an underground bar where Yoon Si-woo confronted Jong Hyun directly. But Jong Hyun knew exactly how to defeat him with ease. In Jong Hyun's previous life, Yoon Si-woo was known as a hot-tempered man. He once felt jealous of Jong Hyun because he was fired while Jong Hyun was promoted. When he attempted to attack, Yoon Si-woo couldn't use his relic due to his overwhelming emotions. The use of relics highly depends on the emotional state of the user. That's why Jong Hyun immediately provoked Yoon Si-woo. As a result, when Yoon Si-woo tried to use his relic, he couldn't do anything. Jong Hyun then seized the relic, which turned out to be called Voodoo Priest Zombie Powder. As its name suggests, anyone who comes into contact with the liquid from this relic will turn into a zombie. That's why Kwon Taek-jun was frustrated to see his trusted subordinate behaving like a zombie. Kwon Taek-jun became even more determined to target Jong Hyun and decided to send a lawyer after him. At Las Vegas airport, Jong Hyun was ready to return home. He was satisfied with all the relics he had obtained in such a short time. However, just before he departed for Korea, a woman appeared. She was a lawyer from TKBM, the company owned by Kwon Taek-jun. The lawyer from TKBM unexpectedly came to recruit Jong Hyun. He made a tempting offer, an advance payment of $100 million and a guarantee of high wages for every completed grave. Naturally, Jong Hyun refused, stating that he would never be a part of TKBM. The TKBM lawyer did not anticipate such a rejection. He then threatened Jong Hyun, warning that if the CEO of TKBM became angry, he could make Jong Hyun disappear. However, rather than intimidating him, the threat only fueled Jong Hyun's anger. Without hesitation, he splashed the zombie relic onto the woman. She had only one way out, resisting the activation of the zombie relic and using her own relic, which could summon waves of water. Unfortunately for her, the relic proved useless as Jong Hyun countered with Hammurabi. Not far from the scene, CEO Kwok realized that his subordinate had been defeated. Now victorious, Jong Hyun examined the relic he had acquired. However, before he could process everything, a familiar voice suddenly echoed. It was the crow responsible for his reincarnation. The crow warned Jong Hyun that a great danger was approaching. Before he had time to react, CEO Kwok had already arrived at the scene. He knew that this moment had been foretold, a time when the existence of relics would be revealed to the entire world. The air grew tense as the two faced each other. Jong Hyun made the first move, threatening Kwok, but the CEO of TKBM remained unfazed. Instead, he activated his relic's power, only to find that it had no effect on Jong Hyun. In a swift motion, Jong Hyun snatched a relic from CEO Kwok's suit, making the CEO even more furious. Kwok Taek-jun, who had lost his relic, did not appear too panicked. He was confident that he could overpower Jong Hyun with his own relic. Jong Hyun also knew that Kwok Taek-jun was not using just one relic. As the battle began, Kwok Taek-jun was shocked by how long Jong Hyun could endure. Just as he was about to increase his power, a crow relic suddenly appeared between them. Kwok Taek-jun was mesmerized and attempted to dominate the relic. However, his power triggered an unforeseen event, something beyond anyone's expectations. The system warned Jong Hyun that the Tomb of the Eternal Relics was about to appear. Jong Hyun immediately realized that this so-called Tomb of the Eternal Relics referred to the Tomb of the Egyptian gods, which in his past life had marked the beginning of relics emerging all over the world. Knowing that they would soon be trapped in a tomb filled with powerful relics, Jong Hyun ordered his team to pack up and leave. However, Kwok Taek-jun, still present, was unwilling to let that happen and used his relic once more to suppress Jong Hyun. But before he could finish his move, another relic appeared in their midst. This time, it was an Egyptian god relic, Seth, a white dog symbolizing destruction and evil. Alongside him was a black dog, Anubis, the god of death and funerals. Anubis wore a golden necklace adorned with a green gemstone, the relic of Osiris, the Egyptian god of abundance and eternal life. At that moment, Jong Hyun realized he was in a dire situation. Not only did he have to deal with Kwok Taek-jun, but he also had to face 3 eternal relics at once. When attacked by the eternal relic, everyone collapsed in weakness, including Kwon Taek-jun, everyone except Jong Hyun, who remained standing tall. Both Seth and Anubis were shocked by Jong Hyun's strength. Their surprise grew even more when Seth launched an attack, only for Jong Hyun to counter it using Hammurabi. Seth was startled. Hammurabi was a relic far weaker than him, yet in Jong Hyun's hands, it was unexpectedly effective. Anubis, witnessing the situation, suggested that they should use their full power. However, Seth refused, not wanting to exhaust themselves unnecessarily. He also noticed something unusual. Jong Hyun carried the scent of the crow relic. This revelation stunned Anubis as well, since every relic knew that the crow relic was supposed to be sealed away. Seeing the tension between the two, Jong Hyun recalled that Egyptian relics never had a good relationship with each other. After all, in their mythology, Seth was considered a treacherous brother. He realized that amidst their argument, he had an opening for a surprise attack. However, Anubis quickly caught on to his intentions and trapped Jong Hyun within the trial of Anubis's relic, a test conducted on a giant scale. In his previous life, the wielder of the Anubis relic had been a mere child who claimed the trial was ridiculously easy. Unfortunately for adults, the trial was nearly impossible to pass, as Anubis would pose questions that were inherently damning to grown-ups. For example, have you ever hurt someone? Have you ever destroyed someone else's belongings? Of course, Jong Hyun couldn't smoothly pass this trial. Declared guilty, he was cast into the pit of judgment, where vengeful spirits attacked him, ensuring he would never return to the surface again. Amidst his misfortune, Jong Hyun once again heard the voice of the crow relic. During Anubis's trial, the raven relic suddenly appeared and aided Jong Hyun. As the relic glowed, Seth, who was outside the trial chamber, was shocked when Anubis's trial room collapsed. Furious that the raven relic had sided with a human, Seth lashed out at it. However, the relic still wished to help Jong Hyun, but he insisted that he could handle everything on his own. Amidst the chaos, Osiris commanded Seth to use his full power. Without hesitation, Seth summoned and controlled all the wandering spirits he could. In response, Jong Hyun wielded Muramasa to fight back. Seeing this, Seth raised the challenge's difficulty by wrapping all the relics and spirits into a giant mummy, making it impossible for Jong Hyun to determine where the Egyptian god relics were hidden. But Jong Hyun had a solution. Using the golden axe and silver axe, he managed to locate the relics of Seth and Osiris. However, instead of immediately defeating the remaining Anubis relic, Jong Hyun demanded that Anubis reopen his trial chamber, this time under Jong Hyun's authority. By answering all of Anubis's questions, Jong Hyun successfully conquered the eternal Egyptian relic. With this, Anubis's tomb had been completed. Jong Hyun then began sealing the tomb. CEO Kwok, who was present, was naturally shocked by what he had witnessed. That was why he wanted to recruit Jong Hyun into TKBM, offering a price even higher than before. However, Jong Hyun, who harbored a deep grudge against TKBM, was immediately enraged. Without hesitation, he attacked CEO Kwok. Although CEO Kwok took a direct hit, his Achilles relic granted him immortality. Jong Hyun was already aware of this, but he had another way to win. He unleashed the full power of Muramasa. The sword had a unique ability. The stronger its opponent, the more frenzied it became. Jong Hyun then launched an attack that triggered a massive explosion. The intensity of their battle kept escalating. Trapped in a corner, CEO Kwok began attacking recklessly. Jong Hyun countered his relentless assaults with Hammurabi. Using a combination of Muramasa and Hammurabi, Jong Hyun managed to defeat CEO Kwok, but at the cost of his two precious relics being destroyed. Though CEO Kwok had been defeated due to the Achilles relic, this was clearly not the end for the TKBM CEO. Jong Hyun knew that his revenge was far from over. With that in mind, he left the scene along with all his subordinates. The next day, news about tombs and relics flooded media outlets worldwide. Jong Hyun explained to his subordinates that from now on, the world would undergo a drastic change due to the existence of relics. He also informed them that his own relics had been severely damaged from his battle against Kwok Taek-joon. Although the damaged relics could still be used, they now came with certain limitations. After giving his explanations, Jong Hyun made a phone call to Irene Holton. He told her that he might have a solution for her curse, but he first needed to find someone. Jong Hyun was searching for a Korean man named Yoo Jae-ha, one of the best relic restorers he knew. Jae-ha had once been a key figure under Jae-hoon at TKBM in the past. Unfortunately, finding him was not easy, especially since Jae-ha had gained an infamous nickname, the King of Conmen. After speaking with Irene, the two agreed to meet. Irene arrived at Jong Hyun's location in a private helicopter, clear evidence of her immense wealth. During their meeting, Irene was shown a picture of Yoo Jae-ha. To Jong Hyun's surprise, Irene revealed that she had met Jae-ha before. Just last month, the so-called King of Conmen had swindled her older brother out of a staggering $20 million, an unshakable trait of the man who bore that infamous title. According to Irene's story, her family had attempted to chase Yoo Jae-ha down. However, during the pursuit, Jae-ha's car veered off a cliff. Jong Hyun was left puzzled. Jae-ha was not supposed to meet such a fate. If the information was true, then the man he was searching for might already be dead. Since his reincarnation, many things had changed. Jong Hyun also realized that it was not the Egyptian relics that should have been unearthed first, but the relics from India. Despite his growing unease, he still firmly believed that Yu Jae-ha, the so-called King of Thieves, was alive. Jong Hyun's search for his old crew had begun. After an intense battle between Jong Hyun and Kwon Taek-ju, Kwon Taek-ju ended up in the hospital. He wasn't just complaining about his defeat, but also about the fact that the existence of relics had now been exposed to the world. He had originally planned to dominate all the relics before they became public knowledge. Still consumed by anger, Kwon Taek-ju was eager to hunt down Jong Hyun. In the midst of his frustration, Kwon Taek-ju was visited by an important figure from TKBM, Edward. The two had a long conversation about many things, including the fact that the relic Kwon Taek-ju had used in battle was severely damaged after fighting Jong Hyun. Edward had a solution. He could have the relic restored through one of his trusted connections. Their conversation eventually ended, and Edward left, instructing his assistant to gather information on Jong Hyun, the man who had just defeated the CEO of TKBM. Meanwhile, Yu Jae-ha, the most sought-after person at the moment, received a call from Edward. Jae-ha was the relic restorer Edward had in mind. Though Jae-ha wasn't particularly thrilled about restoring relics, since it was an exhausting process, he quickly changed his mind when he heard that the client was TKBM, a company with an enormous budget. The prospect of making a fortune was too tempting to refuse. Sometime later, Jong Hyun, who was also searching for Jae-ha, arrived at a hotel. Unfortunately, the receptionist informed him that Jae-ha was not there. In response, Jong Hyun set a trap by displaying 10 relics in his possession. The receptionist then excused herself, saying she needed to step away for a moment. Jong Hyun, however, knew exactly what was happening. This receptionist, Yoon Min-hee, was actually Yu Jae-ha's older sister. The two of them were a pair of skilled con artists. In a back room, Min-hee informed Jae-ha about the relics that had arrived for restoration. At first, Jae-ha refused, but when he learned that the client was easily deceived, he quickly agreed, because he had the ability to duplicate relics for scams. Once Jae-ha made up his mind, Min-hee relayed the message to Jong Hyun, telling him that his relics could be restored but needed to be left in their care. However, instead of being fooled, Jong Hyun was actually pleased, because it meant Jae-ha was still alive, and he now had a lead on the whereabouts of the King of Thieves. Yu Jae-ha's face lit up with excitement as he saw a dozen high-quality relics before him. He had hit the jackpot. While Jae-ha could duplicate relics, not only their form but also their function, their power was significantly weaker. Once the restoration was complete, Min-hee took out the fake relics for Jong Hyun. However, upon realizing he had been tricked, Jong Hyun flew into a rage, terrifying Min-hee to the point that she revealed the location of Jae-ha's room. Jong Hyun stormed in and immediately used his rope relic. Bound tightly, Jae-ha was powerless as Jong Hyun took back all of his relics. Not stopping there, Jong Hyun forcefully used the Shakespeare relic to impose a slave contract on Jae-ha. On the surface, the contract didn't seem too bad. Jong Hyun promised Jae-ha comfort, security, and a staggering $60 million in monthly commissions. But Jae-ha still wanted to escape. He longed to be a free man. Seeing Jae-ha's resistance, Jong Hyun recalled the tragic story behind him. Jae-ha had once been a brilliant young painter at a top American university. Unfortunately, his career was destroyed when his own teacher, John Richard, claimed his artwork as his own. Devastated, Jae-ha dropped out of school and turned to forgery, which eventually led him to the forger's relic. With such a dark past, it was no surprise that Jae-ha wasn't easy to convince. But where had the so-called King of Thieves escaped to? It turned out that Jae-ha had fled to make a phone call. On the other end of the line was none other than Kwok Tae-joon, ready to strike a deal with Jae-ha. Still on the phone, Jae-ha was suddenly captured by Jong Hyun's gang. Jong Hyun took over the call just to mock the CEO of TKBM, further enraging Kwok Taek-joon. After hanging up, Jong Hyun spoke to Jae-ha about their previous agreement, but Jae-ha lost his temper and insisted on joining TKBM. Provoking him, Jong Hyun mentioned the name Jean Richard. That name alone made Jae-ha furious, and he tried to attack Jong Hyun, but failed. Jong Hyun then revealed a harsh truth. Richard could perfectly duplicate Jae-ha's artwork because he was a relic user. That was why Jong Hyun offered to expose Richard's lies and restore Jae-ha's reputation as a genius painter. Hearing this, Jae-ha hesitated, still considering whether to side with Jong Hyun. Growing impatient with the negotiation, Jong Hyun left the choice in Jae-ha's hands and walked out of the hotel. A while later, Jae-ha met with the CEO of TKBM. He agreed to become TKBM's personal relic restorer, but only under the condition that they help him expose Richard as a fraud. Unfortunately, Kwok Taek-jun only laughed at him. Why? Because TKBM was actually on friendly terms with Richard. In fact, they were about to establish the Pandora organization to monopolize relics. Jae-ha was visibly disappointed and attempted to leave the room, but before he could, he was restrained and intended to be. After taking down all the TKBM guards and ejecting Kwok Taek-jun, Jong Hyun escaped with Jae-ha. At Jong Hyun's place, Jae-ha agreed to be assigned as a relic restorer, as per their agreement. However, since Jong Hyun had saved him, he demanded that all relic restorations be completed in just one day. Jae-ha immediately protested, estimating that it would take a month to restore all the relics. But Jong Hyun challenged him, claiming that he could restore the relics quickly using Jae-ha's own relic. Jae-ha didn't believe him and bet that if Jong Hyun succeeded, he wouldn't ask for payment. To Jae-ha's shock, Jong Hyun actually managed to do it using domination, leaving Jae-ha stunned. While Jong Hyun was indeed capable of restoring relics, the process was an immense burden on him, which was why he needed Jae-ha. Having lost the bet, Jae-ha had no choice but to comply. As he left Jae-ha's room, Jae-ha's phone suddenly rang. It was a call from Edward. Edward was looking for Jong Hyun. Jong Hyun knew of Edward, as he was one of the wealthiest men on Earth and also a relic hunter. Edward proposed a collaboration with Jong Hyun to conquer a tomb in China. Initially, Edward claimed that his client was the Chinese government, but Jong Hyun saw through his lie. When pressed for the truth, Edward finally admitted that his actual client was Kira Clark, the general manager of relic research and a U.S. military general known as the Warlord Queen. Kira Clark was in the process of gathering pieces of the maple relics, and the tomb in China was one of the sites holding them. Upon learning this, Jong Hyun immediately agreed to the collaboration, of course with a hidden agenda of his own. 2 days later, Jong Hyun and Jae-ha flew straight to China with the help of Irene Holton, who owned a private jet. Jae-ha was briefly mesmerized by Irene's beauty, but he quickly realized that she was the younger sister of the person he had deceived. Irene, who was also aware of this, assured Jae-ha that he would be safe from her family as long as he helped Jong Hyun. After their introductions, Jong Hyun explained to Irene that she needed to learn how to use relics by training with him and Jae-ha. This was because the parasitic relic attached to Irene couldn't be removed at the moment, so the best course of action was to control it instead. Upon landing in China, Jong Hyun and Jae-ha found an unusual situation. 2/3 of the country had already turned into a graveyard. Knowing they had to move quickly, they prepared themselves. However, at such a critical moment, Jae-ha lost his restoration relic to a thief. Jong Hyun immediately requested his rope relic to chase after the culprit. The thief turned out to be a young boy who was actually an agent from the United States. The boy wielded the Medusa relic, which he couldn't fully control, making it easy for Jong Hyun to defeat him. After winning, Jae-ha was instructed to take all the relics the boy possessed. At this moment, Jong Hyun also realized that his own relic had not yet been restored by Jae-ha, but there was no other choice. Since they had already arrived in China, they had to keep moving forward, even with incomplete relics. After losing all the relics they had, the American agents grew restless about their team's condition. It turned out that America had brought along 3 of their top tomb raiders, Linda Walker, Thomas, and Vivian Lucy. Lucy was questioned about the whereabouts of her relic, but she couldn't say much. Jong Hyun had already used the Shakespeare relic to make a pact with Lucy. Every time she tried to explain what had happened to her, she would be tickled until she couldn't speak. This only worsened the American agent's frustration. Meanwhile, in a separate location, Jong Hyun and Jae-ha boarded a ship to enter the tomb's territory. Still navigating the waters, they realized that the tomb they were headed to had expanded in size. Because of this, their ship was attacked by sea creatures emerging from the tomb. The people who were attacked went insane, but Jong Hyun managed to escape the situation using the Shakespeare relic. It turned out that the tomb relic recognized Jong Hyun, because the relics had already been discussing how the crow relic had chosen a new owner. Jong Hyun then provoked this tomb relic, hoping to uncover the identity of the crow relic. It was revealed that the crow relic was one of the most powerful relics, capable of devouring other relics. As a formidable relic, it was despised by the others because it aided humans. For this reason, the crow relic had been trapped, and its owner had been destroyed by the other relics. Jong Hyun then realized that the last tomb that had trapped him with the giant serpent had a different interior design. He was now certain it was the very place where the crow relic had been imprisoned. After gathering all the information he needed, Jong Hyun continued provoking the tomb relic in China. In response, the relic sent its army of sea monsters to attack him. Their conversation came to an abrupt end. The two of them fought relentlessly, and even Jong Hyun's newly repaired relic was destroyed once again. With no other options left, they had only one choice: to flee. However, as they were escaping, they ran into an American agent seeking revenge. Here, Agent Thomas from America confronted Jong Hyun. Thomas was an A-class relic user with formidable combat skills, forcing Jong Hyun to be cautious in battle. But it didn't take long. Jong Hyun managed to defeat Thomas, seize his relic, and escape on a small boat with Jae-ha. The American forces intended to pursue them, but Jong Hyun used his rope relic to hurl Linda into the ocean, halting the agent's chase. Upon reaching the inner chamber of the tomb, Jong Hyun arrived at the relic's location, which appeared as a giant tree. The relic's trial required him to pray until it was satisfied. However, Jong Hyun had a different solution. He was going to cut it down. After cutting down the tree earlier, the relic that appeared was a map originating from the Ming Empire's story. It was said that the Ming Emperor once ordered more than 60 ships to sail in search of treasures across various parts of the world, achieving great success. That's why this relic map was valuable. It could reveal various treasures related to relics. Once restored, the relic could be used properly. Irene, who had just tried using it, was able to see the location of the relic connected to her curse. It was in Turkey. That's why their next destination was Turkey. However, before departing, Jong Hyun ordered Jae-ha to duplicate the map and hand it over to the Americans. Jae-ha was, of course, terrified, as he had to deceive a superpower nation and its general, Kira. But Jong Hyun insisted it had to be done because Kira was ambitious about monopolizing relics. She was actively searching for all the relic maps, and the one she desired most was the Columbus relic, a relic that revealed the locations of all tombs and scattered relics. After duplicating the relic map Kira wanted and handing it over to the American agents, Jong Hyun, Jae-ha, and Irene enjoyed their lives as VIP guests of Edward. Unfortunately, it didn't take long before Edward faced protests from the Americans over the missing map, and even the British Prime Minister had disappeared. Furious, Edward lashed out at Jong Hyun. But in the midst of Edward's anger, Jong Hyun only responded with a bright, carefree smile. It turned out that Jong Hyun had a plan. He instructed Edward to call Kira and connect the call to him. Once connected, Jong Hyun claimed that he could help Kira find the missing Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. He only needed access to the relic map that Kira possessed. At first, Kira didn't believe him, but Jong Hyun insisted that he could unlock the full potential of her relic map. Jae-ha and Edward were shocked to discover that Jong Hyun had such an ability, but after observing him, they realized he was lying. Kira, deceived by Jong Hyun's words, eventually agreed, but on one condition. Jong Hyun was not allowed to take any relics. He accepted the terms and they reached an agreement. They met at a hotel where Jong Hyun brought Jae-ha along. Upon arrival, they were greeted by a receptionist and two of Kira's subordinates. Jong Hyun then met Kira and began executing his plan. Jong Hyun wrote relic scripts on Kira's map, claiming that it could reveal the location of the missing prime minister. Of course, this was pure deception. Jong Hyun had already discovered the prime minister's whereabouts using a relic he had obtained earlier. That was how he could write down the exact coordinates so accurately. Unfortunately for him, even after completing the task, Kira refused to let him and Jae-ha leave. She ordered Jong Hyun to stay until the prime minister was successfully evacuated, all while teaching her the language of the relics. Still, Jong Hyun remained calm. Sometime later, Kira received confirmation that the prime minister had been successfully evacuated. However, she still refused to let Jong Hyun go. She wanted him to work for her so she could monopolize all relics. But Jong Hyun had no intention of complying and had already prepared an escape plan. Suddenly, chaos erupted. An explosion occurred, and Kira's subordinates went berserk, destroying their boss's relics. As it turned out, Jong Hyun had brought the Shakespeare relic and had been manipulating the people in the hotel. The receptionist had caused the explosion, while Kira's subordinates had unknowingly destroyed her relics. Taking advantage of the confusion, Jong Hyun and Jae-ha escaped using one of Jong Hyun's relics. After the dust settled, Kira contacted Jean Richard to find a relic restorer. She also informed him that Jong Hyun was responsible for destroying her relics, meaning that she now had a common enemy with Jean Richard and TKBM. Amid Kira's frustration, Jean Richard attempted to calm the American general by stating that Pandora would soon be formed. and ordinary people would no longer be able to use relics. After the chaos with Kira, Jong Hyun and his group had arrived in Turkey. Irene was delighted because she could finally interact with other people, even if only for a brief moment. Sometime later, Jong Hyun, Irene, and Jae Ha reached a tomb, the birthplace of Irene's parasitic relic. The tomb was already in ruins as the relic was no longer there, but it hadn't been sealed off yet. Because of this, the three of them decided to enter despite the heavy surveillance by the American military. Jong Hyun devised a unique way to infiltrate the tomb. He detonated a relic to create an underground tunnel. With that, the three of them successfully made their way inside. Inside, Jong Hyun discovered inscriptions about the relic of the tomb. It turned out to be the Hand of Midas. The legend told the story of King Midas, who was granted a wish by the gods. Everything he touched would turn to gold. At first, Midas was pleased, but he soon realized the curse when his food and drink turned to gold as well, condemning him to a life of misfortune. This was exactly what Irene was experiencing. King Midas was only able to break the golden curse after bathing in the Pactolus River. Because of this, Jong Hyun decided to search for the river within the tomb, believing it could counteract Irene's relic's power. However, before they could begin their search, the three of them were ambushed by American soldiers. Jong Hyun immediately ordered his group to escape while he stayed behind to fight them all. On the other hand, Kira had also heard that her subordinates in Turkey were asking for help. When she learned that they were being attacked by two men wielding relics, she immediately realized that one of them was Jong Hyun. Meanwhile, Jong Hyun, who was still fighting against the American agents, found a shortcut to victory. He escaped to activate the glowing tomb trap, swiftly dealing with the American soldiers. Jong Hyun, Jae Ha, and Irene then continued their exploration inside the tomb. Eventually, they discovered a spring. Jong Hyun was certain that this could be the solution to Irene's relic curse, so he instructed the beautiful woman to soak in the water. As Irene bathed, the tomb's relics suddenly went berserk. There was still a relic hidden there. This relic caused Irene's body to turn into gold, forcing Jong Hyun to intervene. Upon entering, he realized that the Midas relic was actually divided into two separate relics, the Golden Hand and the Hand of Ruin, each trying to destroy the other. That was why the Midas relic sought to eliminate Irene. However, Jong Hyun refused to let that happen. He commanded Irene to use her domination ability to fully control the Midas relic. The relic's agonized screams echoed throughout the entire tomb as Irene and Jong Hyun exerted their combined power. Longer turned into gold. Naturally, she was overjoyed. She could finally control the relic of bankruptcy. Elsewhere, Kira was enraged when she received no confirmation from her strike team regarding Jong Hyun's presence at the Turkish tomb. She vowed to eliminate Jong Hyun and his group that very day. Back at Jong Hyun's location, a strange phenomenon occurred. The tomb began to tremble as if it were about to collapse under attack. Jong Hyun immediately realized that this was the power of Kira's strongest relic, the relic of Sekhmet. In Egyptian mythology, Sekhmet was the goddess of destruction, and this relic granted Kira the ability to attack her targets regardless of distance or time. A terrifying power, indeed. However, Jong Hyun had his own way of dealing with it. He used the relic of Hammurabi to withstand the tremors, and then activated the newly acquired tomb restoration skill. Eventually, they managed to escape safely. At the American agency's headquarters, chaos ensued. Despite Kira unleashing her ultimate attack, they were unable to locate Jong Hyun and his group. Frustration spread throughout the team, made worse by the side effects of the relic of Sekhmet. Each time Kira used it, she would regress into a baby until her strength was fully restored. Amid the commotion, Jean Richard contacted Kira with important news. Pandora had finally been established. This organization, supposedly created to protect society from relics, was in reality just a means for the global elite to dominate tombs and relics accessible only to them. A classic power move by an overreaching government. On the other hand, Jong Hyun and his group had already left Turkey. They were heading to America after being invited by Irene's family for a dinner gathering. The family was, of course, overjoyed that their daughter had been freed from the curse of the Midas relic. Just before landing, Jong Hyun sensed the presence of numerous relics at the airport they were arriving at. Inside the airport, a search operation was already underway, conducted by Pandora's forces. They aimed to seize all relics owned by civilians, causing chaos. However, the common people were powerless against the elite troops. One of the Pandora soldiers then reported to their colonel that a wealth-related relic had been detected and was about to land. It was clear that the relic in question was Irene, who was with Jong Hyun. The Pandora colonel, blocking their path, rudely demanded the relic. Jong Hyun remained calm, knowing that with Irene's power, he could turn the situation around. Irene then attempted to use the Midas relic, and in an instant, the Pandora troops were struck by misfortune. Their weapons exploded. It didn't stop there. When they tried to use their own relics, all of them broke, showcasing just how powerful Irene's Midas relic was. Jong-hyun then taught the Pandora colonel a lesson, warning him not to overstep his bounds, let alone attempt to monopolize someone else's relic. Right after that, a massive explosion occurred. Jong-hyun and his group continued their journey. Along the way, he asked Irene how she felt after using the Midas relic for the first time. He was puzzled. She seemed perfectly fine, even though a relic as powerful as Midas should have had some side effects. As Jong-hyun and Irene were searching for answers about the relic's side effects, they were suddenly shocked by a strange phenomenon occurring in Irene's body. Irene was experiencing side effects from the Midas relic. Jong-hyun wanted to help her using domination, but Irene suddenly lost consciousness. When she woke up, she simply approached and hugged Jong-hyun. The crow's system, which only Jong-hyun could see, explained that the side effect of the Midas relic was that its user would go insane and must obtain whatever they desired. Right now, Irene wanted to smell Jong-hyun's sweat, a dream scenario for all the lonely souls out there. Irene quickly came to her senses and, of course, felt embarrassed about hugging Jong-hyun. Upon arriving at Irene's house, Jae-ha refused to get out of the car because he had just deceived Irene's older brother. However, Irene assured Jae-ha that he would be safe. The moment he stepped out, his bad luck was confirmed. Standing there was George Holton, Irene's brother, the very person Jae-ha had tricked. George was ready to explode at Jae-ha, but fortunately Jong-hyun was still able to negotiate. At first, George softened upon hearing that his sister had been freed from the relic's curse. However, in a matter of seconds, his anger flared up again. George realized that even though Irene was free, she was still holding onto a relic. The Holton family was known for being devoutly religious, considering relics to be objects of heresy. George's strong aversion to relics stemmed from his family's beliefs. However, despite his anger, he still let Jae-ha go. Here, George's extreme stance on relics raised questions in Jong-hyun's mind. He could tell that there was something deeper going on within the Holton family. Sensing that something was off, Jong-hyun immediately forced his way into the Holton family residence. As soon as he entered, he saw Irene's parents looking weak and helpless. George claimed he had no idea what had happened, even though they had been perfectly fine earlier. Jong-hyun then stated that Irene's parents were suffering from Relic syndrome. In his previous life, 1/3 of Earth's population had vanished due to this disease. Although he was familiar with the illness, he found it strange because the disease typically took years of exposure before reaching such a dire state. This realization led Jong-hyun to understand that the Holton family had been attacked using a relic capable of accelerating the effects of the disease. Determined to help, Jong-hyun promised that he could cure them, as the disease could only be treated using a healing relic. He possessed such a relic, the Qin Shi Huang Flame, but he had yet to master its use. Therefore, the group set out on a journey to find another relic that could trigger the Qin Shi Huang Flame, transforming it into a fully functional medical relic. The relic they were searching for was the Seobach relic. Seobach was a renowned physician and a trusted confidant of Qin Shi Huang, tasked with finding the elixir of immortality. However, Seobach never returned from his voyage. Many believe that Seobach had discovered the elixir but refused to hand it over to Qin Shi Huang. This story is what connects the Seobach relic to Qin Shi Huang's fire relic. The mission to find the Seobach relic began with Jong-hyun searching for a beggar. Who would have thought that the beggar he was looking for turned out to be Edward, who had fallen into poverty? The moment Edward saw Jong-hyun, he flew into a rage, blaming him for his downfall. However, Jong-hyun offered him a new future, but on one condition: information about the Seobach relic. Jong-hyun explained that the Seobach relic could serve as a medical relic, allowing them to establish a pharmaceutical company and become wealthy. Edward agreed, but unfortunately, he had already sold the information to Kira, who had now taken action. To Edward, Kira's approach seemed unusual. Rather than deploying American agents, she was using her private forces instead. Hearing this, Jong-hyun was actually pleased, and they immediately set off for Ghana, where the Seobach relic was located. Upon arriving in Ghana, Jong-hyun immediately spotted Kira's special forces and had already devised a plan. He would face them, starting with a card game. During a card game, Jong-hyun realized that Kira's subordinates were using a luck-based artifact. Kira's men were, of course, shocked, but there was nothing they could do about it. Moreover, the artifact they used was only grade C, while Jong-hyun used Midas Irene's relic to turn the situation around. That's why Jong-hyun wanted to extract information from them, but they refused. At this moment, however, Midas Irene's relic lost control, causing Kira's subordinates to suffer immense pain and spill everything. It was revealed that the Seobach relic had been buried in a northern grave under Kira's orders. Without wasting time, Jong-hyun rushed there. Just as he was about to depart, a new problem arose. Jong-hyun lost control of Irene. due to the side effects of Midas's relic. Fortunately, he managed to find Irene in a short time, though he once again felt something strange about the situation. On Kira's side, having suffered multiple defeats at the hands of Jong Hyun, she had already learned that the man she was searching for had arrived in Ghana. However, she was confused. Why was Jong Hyun there when the relic in Ghana wasn't meant for battle? Meanwhile, Jong Hyun had already started breaking into the tomb. Explosions echoed as he used them as shortcuts. Upon entering, they were shocked to find a tea plantation and underage workers. Jong Hyun's Raven system explained that these children were under the influence of the Shinin relic. Shinin comes from Chinese mythology, known as the first person to create agricultural tools and teach farming techniques. There's also a story that says Shinin's agricultural leaves were poisoned by toxic weeds, forcing people to chew the leaves to neutralize the poison. Seeing the Shinin artifact in this place, Jong Hyun became even more confused about Kira's true intentions for the tomb in Ghana. However, he set aside his confusion for now. He had to find the Seobach artifact first. The search was anything but easy, as they were suddenly attacked by the children inside. Amidst the commotion, Jong Hyun, unwilling to harm the children present, bound them all using his original artifact. With that taken care of, he could focus on searching for the relic he sought. It didn't take long for Jong Hyun to sense the relic's presence. To his surprise, the relic took the form of an earthworm. According to legend, Seobach was known as the Extorter because he left with a large sum of money from the Chinese Empire but never returned. Knowing this, Jong Hyun had prepared a vast amount of money, understanding that this relic had a strong affinity for wealth. The moment the relic saw $2 billion in cash, it reacted with excitement, yet it still refused to submit to Jong Hyun. However, once Irene Holton presented a land certificate, the relic immediately surrendered and submitted to Jong Hyun's group. Once tamed, Jong Hyun placed Seobach inside a jar. Its first task was to rescue all the children in the tomb and collect samples of the tea leaves they had harvested. Afterward, Jong Hyun instructed Jae-ha and Irene to escape first, as he still had unfinished business to attend to. Unfortunately, just as they parted ways, Jong Hyun found himself trapped inside a barrier that prevented his relic from leaving and accompanying him. The barrier had been created by the Shinin relic, the true owner of the tomb. It sought to consume Jong Hyun by manipulating the earth, roots, and everything within the area. Jong Hyun, however, knew exactly what he had to do. He had already pinpointed the location of the Shinin relic, which had taken the form of a tea tree. Shinin, believing he had the upper hand, was stunned when Jong Hyun unexpectedly used a relic to set the entire tea plantation ablaze. Enraged, Shinin retaliated by pulling Jong Hyun into a burial pit, a trap designed to imprison him forever. But did Shinin win? Absolutely not. Jong Hyun was even more reckless. He set the pit on fire, triggering a massive explosion inside the tomb. Moments later, Jong Hyun emerged from the ruins, having successfully obtained the Shinin relic and sealing the tomb shut. Now, all that was left was to hand over the relics to Jae-ha for restoration. With this, the expedition at the Ghanaian tomb was officially completed. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Jong Hyun's subordinates were guarding the flames of Qin Shi Huang. They acted as attendants to the relic, though at the end of the day, a job was still a job. One of them soon received a call from Jong Hyun, ordering them to relocate from Los Angeles to New York. Jong Hyun, Jae-ha, and Irene arrived in New York first, but many strange things started happening. Irene was unable to contact her family, who were supposed to pick them up, and Jong Hyun's subordinates were also unreachable. After landing, things became even stranger. Jong Hyun's men, who had arrived earlier in New York, had been taken by American agents to seize Qin Shi Huang's relic. This was something that couldn't be ignored, but unfortunately, Jong Hyun was stuck in traffic. In this situation, Irene, who was desperate to save her parents, started to panic. Without realizing it, she activated the Midas relic, making the situation even more chaotic. Luckily, Jong Hyun was there to calm her down, allowing her to suppress Midas's power. After analyzing the situation clearly, Jong Hyun decided to rescue his subordinates first. He used a relic he had obtained from the CEO of TKBM during their first meeting. This relic had an extraordinary teleportation ability. Not only did it instantly transport Jong Hyun to his subordinates, but it also sent all the American agents to Mongolia. This relic was called the God's Invitation, inspired by the ancient Japanese kamikaze concept, where people believed that gods could make them disappear and transport them elsewhere. After successfully saving all his subordinates, the Qin Shi Huang's fire relic was finally in Jong Hyun's hands. Jong Hyun then took possession of the relic and fused it with the Seobach relic. As soon as the two artifacts made contact, Jong Hyun immediately performed domination. His strategy worked, and the two relics merged perfectly. Qin Shi Huang's fire finally transformed into a complete medical relic. Now the next step was to go to the Holton family's house to heal the hosts. At Irene's home, the scene was shocking. The family's guards had already been defeated. Inside the house, George Holton was gravely injured after being attacked. He revealed that Irene's parents had been kidnapped by American agents using a painting. This revelation pushed Irene further into panic, almost triggering the Midas relic once again. However, Jong Hyun was there to calm the situation. It turned out that Jong Hyun had already swapped Irene's parents with a duplicate using Jae Ha's relic, which had the ability to replicate anything. This meant that the American agents had only kidnapped copies of Irene's parents. This revelation brought a great sense of relief, but it wasn't the end of Jong Hyun's plans. He intended to use this situation to set a trap for Kira, the leader of the American agents responsible for the abduction. After finishing at Irene's house, Jong Hyun, Jae Ha, Irene, and George headed into the heart of New York City. They began listening to the news on the radio. A shocking report surfaced, mentioning Kira's name in connection to child slavery in Ghana. It was Jong Hyun who had exposed her by recording the activities of the children there and sending the footage to Edward. With his expertise in media, Edward successfully cornered Kira. Even the president of Ghana publicly announced that the country was withdrawing from Pandora. This, of course, enraged Kira, but it brought satisfaction to Jong Hyun. It didn't take long for Kira's fury to reach Jong Hyun. They were suddenly attacked by the relic painting that George had previously mentioned. The American agents escorting Kira were by her side. Arrogantly, Kira ordered Jong Hyun and his group to hand over their medical relics. She claimed that Irene's parents were trapped inside the painting, leaving them with no choice. However, Jong Hyun boldly challenged Kira's threat. The American general panicked when he realized that the painting contained nothing and no one. Amid her growing anxiety, Kira launched an attack on Jong Hyun, but he remained composed. Meanwhile, Irene had already lost her temper, fully prepared to fight Kira, who had attempted to take her family hostage. Jong Hyun urged George to flee, knowing this battle was about to become extremely dangerous. A clash between America King of War, Kira Clark, and the King of Bankruptcy, Irene Holton. The battle between Kira and Irene begins. Kira strikes first, wielding the Sekhmet relic transformed into a powerful bow. A massive explosion rocks the battlefield. Kira thinks it's over quickly, but of course it isn't. Irene still stands, calm and unshaken. Fueled by her anger toward Kira, Irene activates the Relic of Bankruptcy. Finally, Kira has met her match. Meanwhile, Jong Hyun, Jae Ha, and George Holton rush off to a new location, a building Jong Hyun had secretly purchased in advance. Inside, his trusted subordinates are already waiting, and the relic of Qin Shi Huang is ready to be used. Also waiting there are Mr. and Mrs. Holton, both on the brink of death. After consuming the fire fruit of Qin Shi Huang, they are miraculously healed. Seeing this, Jong Hyun wastes no time and rushes toward Irene's battlefield. When he arrives, the entire city has been destroyed by the battle between Irene and Kira, but surprisingly, only Irene remains. She tells him that Kira vanished during the fight. However, Jong Hyun receives a notification from the system. It wasn't that Kira disappeared. The truth is, she suffered from a side effect of the Sekhmet relic. The relic is so powerful that its user can undergo a physical transformation when exhausted. At that moment, Jae Ha discovers Kira's relic painting. Jong Hyun uses a torn piece of the relic to track her down, and to his shock, he finds that the War King, Kira Clark, has turned into a silkworm. After securing Kira as a hostage, Jong Hyun informs Irene about her parents' recovery. The two part ways for the time being. Jong Hyun and Jae Ha head to a luxurious mansion prepared for them. Jae Ha is immediately tasked with repairing the Van Gogh relic, a relic capable of entrapping people. Meanwhile, Jong Hyun attempts to communicate with Kira, who keeps raging uncontrollably. Annoyed by her endless yapping, he traps her inside a bottle filled with alcohol. According to legend, Sekhmet is weak to alcohol, so the same tactic works well on Kira. A while later, Jae Ha reports that the Van Gogh relic is ready. Suddenly, they both sense they are surrounded. Kira's subordinates have tracked them down, searching for their missing leader. Jong Hyun tosses the bottle containing Kira, and she quickly returns to her original form, only to be immediately trapped inside the completed Van Gogh relic. Jong Hyun intends to interrogate her, but the War King refuses to calm down. Kira orders her subordinates to find a way out, but thanks to Jae Ha's modifications, there is no escape. Worse yet, Jae Ha can draw monsters into the relic world to keep them under pressure. Realizing he can't get any useful information, and that Kira poses a future threat, Jong Hyun makes a cold decision. He burns the Van Gogh relic, erasing both Kira and her subordinates for good. The next day, Jong Hyun and Jae Ha are aboard the Holton family's private cruise ship, celebrating the recovery of the family patriarch. During the celebration, Jong Hyun is granted full sponsorship from the Holton family, not just for tomb expeditions, but also for launching a medical relic company of his own. While speaking with Mr. Holton, a crow-shaped relic suddenly appears. Its presence causes all other relics, including Irene's Midas, to vibrate violently. Jong Hyun immediately orders everyone to clear out, leaving only him and the crow relic behind. The crow delivers a warning. Jong Hyun is now being targeted by multiple S-rank relics, including the Golden Dragon Liu Chao relic, one of the very relics that once sealed the crow relic itself. Despite the warning, Jong Hyun remains calm and composed, which slightly relieves the crow. Impressed by Jong Hyun's unwavering demeanor, the crow rewards him with an S-rank relic, Hoonbu and Nolbu. Since its abilities are unknown, Jong Hyun decides not to use it recklessly and instead seals it within the Van Gogh relic for safekeeping. The next day, Jong Hyun's relic company is officially established, with Edward appointed as its lead operator. After wrapping up initial affairs, Jong Hyun receives word from Irene. They've been invited to a summit hosted by Pandora, gathering all major tomb raiders. Jong Hyun initially refuses the invitation, especially since it's issued by the CEO of TKBM, someone he despises. But when he sees the name Julian Miller on the list, he changes his mind. In his previous life, Julian was a formidable tomb raider and one of Jong Hyun's bitter rivals. Now, Jong Hyun is determined to meet him again. Upon arriving at the grand banquet hosted by Pandora, Jong Hyun finds Edward already present, gathering intel. The event is crowded with hundreds of excavation teams, fitting given the increasing number of tombs appearing around the world. While speaking with Edward, a man suddenly makes his entrance. He is Austin Rockford, a world-famous artist. Jong Hyun instantly senses a faint relic aura from him, proof that Austin is a powerful relic user capable of suppressing his presence. Jae Ha, being an artist himself, is starstruck and asks for Austin's autograph. Austin sees this as the perfect opportunity to activate his relic on Jae Ha. However, once he receives the signed paper, Jae Ha tears it to shreds, thanks to the influence of one of Jong Hyun's relics, which protects him from Austin's control. Frustrated, Austin lashes out further when Jong Hyun deliberately destroys his relic. In Jong Hyun's previous life, Austin Rockford earned the title the Artificial King. As the heir to a wealthy American family much like the Holtons, he used his vast fortune to collect powerful relics. Jong Hyun knows that Austin could become a future threat, so he plans to eliminate him from the race for relics before it's too late. But today isn't the time. As they're at an official Pandora event, open combat is off limits. Soon after, the main announcement begins. Jong Hyun notices Julian Miller on stage delivering a speech. In Jong Hyun's past life, Miller had been both an ally and rival. They worked side by side under TKBM. Jong Hyun as the right hand, Miller as the left. The two were a terrifying combo. Jong Hyun wielded the Archaist relic, while Miller used the Zhuge Liang relic, which provided comprehensive intel on tombs. That's how TKBM came to dominate the relic world, despite the frequent clashes between the two. Now, Jong Hyun has one goal at this event: make sure Julian Miller does not side with Kwok Taek-jun, the CEO of TKBM. After Miller's speech, Kwok Taek-jun unveils his master plan. He intends to recruit Miller into TKBM. To celebrate, he invites the media and announces a massive humanitarian donation, playing to Miller's well-known values of justice and compassion. Seeing this, Jong Hyun quickly mobilizes his team to sabotage the plan. He starts with Jean Richard, who is also present. Jong Hyun exposes Richard, known publicly as a great artist, as nothing more than a fraud who uses a relic to mimic masterpieces. Jae Ha, whose life had been destroyed by Richard in the past, comes forward to testify. The media descends into chaos. Jong Hyun escalates the situation further by revealing the nature of Kwok's relic, one that can enslave people's will. Kwok denies the claim, but Miller also senses something disturbing from him. Tensions rise, and Edward stirs the journalists even more, framing TKBM as unethical manipulators. In the end, Miller walks out, refusing to sign with TKBM. Furious over the failed plan, Kwok activates the Conquest relic, capable of devastating the entire venue just to kill Jong Hyun. Before he can unleash its power, Austin Rockford intervenes. He declares he wants to be the one to defeat Jong Hyun. Austin reveals his relic, Zoroaster's Avesta, an SS rank relic in the form of a sacred scripture. Jong Hyun is stunned. That relic should belong to the man destined to become the missionary king, not Austin. But there's no time to dwell on it. The moment Austin activates the relic, everyone in the hall, including Jae Ha, falls under its influence and attacks Jong Hyun. In an instant, Jong Hyun retaliates, knocking Jae-ha back to his senses. Now aware that his opponent is using a powerful mental-type relic, Jong-hyun draws his own countermeasure, the deadly Muramasa relic. Seeing his boss draw a sword, Edward immediately panics. However, Jong-hyun has no intention of harming anyone. His plan is to unleash a wave of mental attacks, including one aimed directly at Austin. Caught off guard by the psychic assault, Austin panics, creating the perfect opening for Jong-hyun to snatch away his relic. Jong-hyun attempts to dominate the Avesta, Austin's SS rank relic, but because Austin is still conscious, the relic resists his control. Fortunately, Jong-hyun has a rope relic that binds Austin, weakening him enough for domination to succeed. To Jong-hyun's surprise, the process goes far smoother than expected. He remembers how painful it was to dominate Muramasa before, yet now he manages to tame an SS rank relic without a scratch. Before he can reflect too deeply, Austin's bodyguards arrive to rescue their master. Not wanting a prolonged fight, Jong-hyun escapes using a relic that creates a thick smokescreen. Amid the chaos, Jong-hyun finds Miller and offers to help him escape. Though hesitant at first, Miller decides to follow him. With Jae-ha's relic assisting their getaway, the group escapes the venue safely. On the move, Jong-hyun attempts to recruit Miller. He knows Miller is desperately searching for his younger sister, so Jong-hyun offers to help find her, in exchange for Miller joining his team. However, Miller drops a bombshell. He's already found his sister, but she's dead. Jong-hyun is stunned. In his past life, Miller's sister was still alive. This unexpected turn confirms what Jong-hyun has long suspected. The future is no longer the same. Having no reason to stay, Miller quietly walks away. The next day, the world is in uproar. News headlines everywhere condemn Pandora for the disaster at their event. Jong-hyun is more than satisfied. He came out ahead, especially having secured the powerful Avesta relic. Still, something nags at him. The fact that Miller's sister was already dead means fate is shifting. The past Jong-hyun once knew can no longer be trusted. While lost in thought, Jae-ha bursts in to complain about the rope relic. According to him, the relic refuses to be restored. It simply wants to stay near Jong-hyun. Confused, Jong-hyun tries to investigate, only for something miraculous to happen. The rope relic, Rope, evolves into a rare rank B relic. Even as a seasoned tomb raider, Jong-hyun has never seen such a phenomenon. Then, a system notification appears. He has earned the title Relic Trainer, which grants him the ability to level up relics. Realizing the implications, Jong-hyun finally sees the path before him. This power could allow him to dominate the relic world entirely. Elsewhere, Pandora, still reeling from the PR disaster, holds an emergency meeting. But the agenda isn't just about the backlash. Pandora has detected 7 tombs set to emerge around the world, each housing relics capable of changing the fate of humanity. To seize control of these tombs, Pandora begins selecting the world's top relic users. Their shortlist includes Kwok Taek-jun, Austin Rockford, Jean Richard, Julian Miller, Irene Holton, and Yoo Jae-ha. But the most shocking name of all is Seo Jong-hyun, holder of 50 relics and now referred to as the Tomb Raider King. Pandora is shaken. Jong-hyun, a rogue actor who refuses to ally with them, has become their biggest threat. To stop him, Pandora resolves to monopolize all information regarding the 7 upcoming tombs, ensuring Jong-hyun is left in the dark. Back to Jong-hyun. He's currently overwhelmed trying to make sense of his new skill, the ability to level up relics. Unfortunately, it's far from straightforward. The requirements are complex, and worse, even the Raven relic can't explain them properly. This leaves Jong-hyun deeply frustrated. Taking a short break, he catches the latest news. Hundreds of tombs have appeared all around the world. When asked, Pandora dodges the questions, clearly hiding something. Jong-hyun knows exactly what they are hiding: the 7 great tombs. In his previous life, these 7 tombs were each linked to one of the 7 deadly sins. The archaist relic Jong-hyun once obtained came from the Tomb of Greed, one of the 7. He knows better than anyone that conquering these tombs will take more than just brute strength. They'll need powerful allies, but Jong-hyun has a bolder idea. He plans to use Avesta, the newly acquired SS rank relic. There's just one catch. Avesta only activates when its user has at least 10 fans. Since he can't rely on fame like Austin, a celebrity in his own right, Jong-hyun comes up with a new plan: become a novelist and gain fans that way. Unfortunately, it backfires spectacularly. His subordinates find his writing so bad they nearly throw up. The next morning, while Jae-ha is busy restoring relics, Jong-hyun suddenly interrupts him. They're heading to Tokyo. In Japan's biggest city, a bizarre phenomenon has been unfolding. Over 2,000 women have gone missing. Jong Hyun suspects the culprit is the harem relic, and he plans to capture it. His goal? Simple: gain fans. Despite being dubbed the Tomb Raider King, Jong Hyun has no real fan base, and it's starting to seriously bother him. Once they arrive in Tokyo, they head straight to the incident site, already heavily guarded by local police. It doesn't take long for Jong Hyun to notice something strange. The women in the area are attacking people. That shouldn't be happening. The harem relic normally causes affection or obedience, not violence. To calm the situation, Jong Hyun unleashes Muramasa, neutralizing the aggressive crowd. Among them is a girl named Yuki, a future relic user from Japan. Once she regains her senses, she confesses she was hypnotized by an American agent named Simon. Now things make sense. Simon is using a combination of the harem relic and his own necromancer relic to control these women and turn them into fighters. This turns what was supposed to be a simple relic capture into something far more complicated. Preparations to face Simon begin. Jong Hyun turns his attention to the weakened Anubis relic, which Jae-ha had intentionally left unrestored. Now was the time to tame the Egyptian god. Jong Hyun tries to form a contract peacefully, but Anubis refuses. So Jong Hyun takes out his secret weapon, rope. Using it, he subjects Anubis to relentless humiliation, holding his hand, making him sit, even playing fetch like a house dog. As a divine relic, Anubis is horrified, but faced with endless indignity, he finally gives in and accepts a contract. His pride may be shattered, but he's now under Jong Hyun's control. With Anubis on his side, Jong Hyun heads to confront Simon. The American agent is confident, commanding thousands of hypnotized women using the harem relic, but Jong Hyun has the perfect counter. He uses Anubis to summon the undead, raising corpses from nearby graves. The moment fear strikes the women's hearts, the harem effect is broken. The relic cannot control victims consumed by terror. Now surrounded by zombies, Simon panics. Defeated, he let slip a critical piece of information. He was supposed to conquer one of the 7 great tombs that are about to appear. Jong Hyun realizes he just hit the jackpot. This intel confirms Pandora really is hiding the existence of the 7 tombs. Defeating Simon isn't just about winning a relic. It earns Jong Hyun the admiration of over 2,000 women he rescued. With that, he finally meets the Avesta relic's condition, having at least 10 fans. The next day, in a hotel room, Jong Hyun decides to stay in Japan and wait for the appearance of one of the 7 great tombs. In the meantime, he's now swarmed by adoring fans. Among the crowd, he spots a familiar face, Seol Ah. In his past life, she was a spy working for TKBM. Later, back in his hotel room, Jong Hyun checks on his relics. Several have evolved, including Shakespeare, which is now rank S. After forming a contract with Avesta, he also receives a new relic, Casanova's perfume. While he's reviewing his gains, a hotel maid knocks on the door. It's Seol Ah. Jong Hyun immediately stops her and demands to know why she's spying on him. Cornered, Seol Ah summons her relic, Dokaibi Gilda, a relic that can manifest spirits to attack. Jong Hyun initially flees, knowing he's unprepared for a direct fight. But then something strange happens. When Gilda tries to attack, the spirit becomes terrified and flees. All that remains is Seol Ah, now tied up tightly by rope, helpless before Jong Hyun. Jong Hyun begins interrogating Seol Ah. As expected, she's not easy to break. She deliberately stalls for time, waiting for her allies to arrive. Unfortunately for her, once her backup appears, they're instantly neutralized. Anubis attacks without mercy. With all of them captured, they finally spill the truth. It turns out Seol Ah and her teammate are part of China's Relic excavation team. While Pandora is controlled by America and its allies, China and Russia have formed a rival alliance. These two were dispatched to investigate Simon and gather intel on the 7 great tombs set to appear soon. Jong Hyun presses them for every detail, digging deep until he's satisfied. Surprisingly, after the interrogation, he lets them go. His reasoning? In the future, he plans to recruit Seol Ah for his own team. A few days later, Jong Hyun sets out for Kyoto, where a massive tomb has just appeared. The city lies in ruins, and the tomb itself resembles a giant Roman Colosseum. At first, the area seems abandoned, until Yoon Si-wo from TKBM arrives. As Jong Hyun is about to provoke Yoon Si-wo again, a man suddenly steps forward, shocking Jong Hyun. The man introduces himself as Chen, a relic excavator working with TKBM. He offers to cooperate with Jong Hyun, but Jong Hyun flatly refuses. In his past life, Chen had been part of Jong Hyun's excavation team, but he was a traitor. When Kwok Taek-jun began to see Jong Hyun's team as a threat, Chen conspired with TKBM's CEO to trap Jong Hyun inside a tomb, leading to his near-death encounter with a basilisk and his eventual bond with the Crow Relic. There's no way Jong Hyun would ever trust him again. He turns away, leaving the TKBM team behind without a second thought. Jong Hyun and Jae Ha soon reach the tomb's entrance. Its interior reflects classic Roman architecture. To their surprise, they find the TKBM excavation team already collapsed inside, unconscious from the tomb's aura. Jong Hyun explains, "This is one of the 7 deadly sin tombs, sloth. Anyone who enters is cursed with overwhelming drowsiness. To resist the effect, Jong Hyun summons Anubis, using his presence to push deeper inside. But poor Anubis. Once they reach the next area, Jong Hyun blows him up to trigger a hidden mechanism and gain further access. Luckily, Jae Ha is there to repair and restore Anubis afterward. Inside, they discover a magnificent golden Roman chamber, the Domus Aurea, or Golden Palace. But before they can make sense of it all, the entire room erupts into flames. Jae Ha quickly identifies the tomb's relic, Nero, the infamous Roman emperor known for his cruelty. Thankfully, Jong Hyun had come prepared, with Van Gogh's relic, which absorbs and neutralizes the blazing fire. Still, the danger isn't over. The tomb's spell begins to fade, and all the unconscious excavators wake up, drawn toward Jong Hyun's location. Jae Ha urges him to retreat, but Jong Hyun has a different plan to handle the crowd. As the TKBM excavators began advancing, Jong Hyun revealed his new skill, tomb destruction. With it, he obliterated the entire tomb structure, using the collapse as a trap to delay the others. Once the destruction was complete, he and Jae Ha escaped deeper inside, heading for the innermost chamber of the tomb. The inner sanctum resembled an ancient Roman theater. Fittingly so, Nero, the infamous Roman emperor, was well known for his obsession with the arts. Although he tried his hand at creating art and life, he was utterly talentless. Once they entered, the doors slammed shut and flames erupted throughout the space. Nero's relic demanded worship, declaring himself a god. Jong Hyun tried a clever strategy. He used the Homer glasses, a relic inspired by the legendary Greek poet, hoping Nero would respect the literary symbolism and submit. But that backfired spectacularly. Nero, furious, struck Jong Hyun with flames and seized both the Homer glasses and Van Gogh's relic, absorbing their artistic powers for himself. He then launched an all-out assault on Jong Hyun and Jae Ha, but then, unexpectedly, Nero stopped attacking. He recognized Jong Hyun, not as an enemy of the Crow relic, but as the author of the failed novel that even Jae Ha had mocked. In a bizarre twist, Nero was a fan of Jong Hyun's awful literary work. Enthusiastic, Nero proposed a contest, not a battle of strength, but a duel in literary creation to determine who could craft the superior piece of writing. Jong Hyun was left utterly dumbfounded. After all, both he and Nero were notoriously terrible writers. Naturally, Jong Hyun refused. He knew his limits and thought the entire challenge was ridiculous. However, he was also cornered. The tombs tied to the 7 deadly sins were crucial, and they needed the relics within. Backing out wasn't an option. Amid his internal conflict, Jong Hyun received a system notification. Someone with the maneuver relic, a tool that reveals the weaknesses of tombs and relics, was approaching. Jong Hyun instantly knew who it was: Julian Miller. If Julian found Nero first, there was a real chance he'd conquer the tomb. So Jong Hyun made a counteroffer to Nero. If they were going to have a literary duel, Jong Hyun would choose the stage. Desperate to face his favorite author in an artistic showdown, Nero immediately agreed. Just as they finished negotiating, Julian Miller arrived, but it was too late. Jong Hyun had already taken Nero and left the tomb. Days later, news of the tomb's conquest spread across the globe. Austin Rockford was furious when he found out Jong Hyun had claimed the victory in Tokyo, especially since Austin had dispatched his elite excavation team. To make things worse, he already knew from Nostradamus' relic that conquering Nero's tomb would require a sacrifice of 100 people. Yet Jong Hyun succeeded with just 2. Austin was livid, unable to comprehend how Jong Hyun had defied fate. Back at base, Jong Hyun finally questioned Nero. How did his novel end up in the relic realm? Nero explained that he had bought it from a relic merchant, someone who distributes various artifacts and information throughout the relic world. Suspicious, Jong Hyun turned to one of his own relics, Rope, but when questioned, Rope began acting suspiciously. Despite being questioned multiple times, Rope kept denying any involvement, until Anubis revealed that he too had read Jong Hyun's novel. That was the turning point. Jong Hyun realized all of his relics had read his novel, so he stormed into Jae Ha's room to interrogate everyone. Tension filled the air as the relics looked around nervously, and finally, all fingers pointed to one culprit, Seobach. This relic was infamous for being money-hungry and business-savvy. He shamelessly admitted to selling Jong Hyun's novel to the other relics, claiming it was fair since Jong Hyun hadn't been paying him lately. Furious, Jong Hyun demanded all the profit Seobach had earned from the sales. To everyone's shock, Jae-ha's room instantly flooded with money and valuables, a mountain of wealth, proving that the novel was wildly popular among relics. Among the treasure, one item caught Jong Hyun's eye. Seobach explained it was a relic core, a mysterious object that contains the very soul of a relic, something that can never be separated from them. It was a new discovery, and Jong Hyun knew he needed to study it further. The next day, Jong Hyun and Jae-ha prepared to return to New York. Kyoto was in chaos, the streets buzzing with chatter after news spread that Jong Hyun had conquered the tomb. Jong Hyun concluded that Julian Miller must have been the one who rescued everyone, unintentionally exposing Jong Hyun's identity. Amid the confusion, Jae-ha came up with a brilliant idea. He proposed using the relic core to enhance his duplication ability, a massive breakthrough. Jong Hyun was intrigued. With this, the future of their operations just became even brighter. To sell the fake relics Jae-ha had crafted, they used Pandora's website, the world's largest hub for trading relics and tomb-related info. It was the most accessed forum on Earth. Realizing its potential, Jong Hyun took over from Jae-ha, planning to trick collectors into buying their fakes. He claimed the relic came from the Kyoto tomb, supposedly the relic of Julius Caesar, the legendary Roman emperor. The next day, their strategy paid off beyond expectations. Pandora's forum crashed from the traffic surge. The relic made headlines on national TV, with demand soaring. Jong Hyun upped the stakes. He announced that the sale would now be a live auction in Los Angeles. Auction day arrived. To attend, participants had to pay an entry fee of 1 relic each. At first, the crowd erupted in outrage. It was too steep, but Jong Hyun didn't budge. Slowly, one by one, the attendees began to give in. Jae-ha collected the relics, and among them were some top-tier relics, far beyond their expectations. Inside the auction hall, excitement buzzed through the room. The audience was mesmerized by the relic on display. Jong Hyun was confident. Everything was going perfectly, but he was wrong. Julian Miller had figured it out. He confronted Jae-ha, demanding to know the meaning behind selling a counterfeit relic. Jae-ha had no excuse. He knew Miller possessed a relic capable of detecting forgeries. As a man devoted to justice, Julian Miller stepped in, ready to expose Jong Hyun's entire operation. Julian Miller forced his way back into the auction hall. Without hesitation, he activated a relic that amplified his voice, ready to reveal the truth to everyone. But Jong Hyun was quicker. He ordered rope to bind Miller, accusing him of attempting to sabotage the auction to win by cheating. The room erupted in tension as the atmosphere grew more heated. Amidst the chaos, Princess Sophia of the Sophia Kingdom stepped forward with an intriguing proposal. Instead of bidding with money, why not allow participants to pay using relics? Jong Hyun, recognizing the genius behind the idea, agreed. After a lengthy back and forth between bidders, Princess Sophia emerged victorious, her expression full of joy as she secured the coveted relic. After the auction ended, Jong Hyun confronted the restrained Miller in private. Miller demanded that Jong Hyun confess to the fraud, but Jong Hyun refused, admitting it would ruin everything. But then, a relic suddenly fled the scene. Jong Hyun immediately realized what had happened. Seol Ah, from the Chinese tomb raiding faction, had been eavesdropping on their conversation. She wasted no time, rushing to Princess Sophia and whispering the truth. The relic Princess Sophia just bought, it's fake. To prove it, Seol Ah sliced the relic in half using only a rank B relic. Everyone was shocked. A true rank S relic should be indestructible against such a low-tier weapon. The truth was undeniable. The relic was a forgery. The room erupted into chaos. As people panicked and accusations flew, Seol Ah separated herself from the turmoil. Her goal was now clear. She would hunt down the 7 great tombs alone, free from Jong Hyun's interference. Meanwhile, Jong Hyun calmly began executing his backup plan. He stepped forward before the angry crowd, maintaining composure. He explained that Jae-ha had been injured, and they were under threat, that the auction had been a ruse to identify the mysterious attacker interested in the relic. And now that the auction was over and the item had a rightful owner, they would honor the results and hand over the relic. But when he turned to present it, the relic was gone. Panic spread. Jong Hyun immediately ordered a full search of everyone in attendance. Miller, still present, used his own relic to track its location. And then shock hit him. The authentic relic was in his own jacket. Miller was stunned. He had no idea this was Jong Hyun's final move. Jong Hyun had instructed Rope to release Miller earlier on and plant the real relic in his coat. Now, when the Princess of Amroko tested it with a relic cutter, the item remained perfectly intact. The relic was genuine. The crowd gasped. Miller was speechless. Jong Hyun simply burst out laughing, relishing the perfect twist of fate. The auction ended with a miserable fate for Miller. Jong Hyun orchestrated everything to ensure Miller wouldn't bother him again in the future. When the auction concluded, Jong Hyun handed over the real Nero relic to Princess Sophia. Shortly after, Jong Hyun returned to New York, carrying both the money and relics he had acquired. But who would have guessed? The Nero relic returned to Jong Hyun. Jong Hyun knew Nero was a type of relic that could never truly let go of its target. So even after being separated, Nero, who had yet to face off with Jong Hyun, came back to him. This was a decisive victory for Jong Hyun. Now only one problem remained. Nero was demanding the promised duel. Jong Hyun then decided where their match would take place. Meanwhile, chaos was unfolding for Princess Sophia. When Nero escaped, he set the entire palace on fire. Though fortunately, the blaze was extinguished. Princess Sophia, having spent a great deal of money on the relic, was furious about Nero's escape. With Seol Ah's help, they managed to trace Nero's steps and discovered that the relic had gone to Hawaii. Of course, Nero's presence in Hawaii was because he was with Jong Hyun there. Jong Hyun targeted the famous TKBM villa as the venue for their duel. There were two reasons for this choice. It was far from civilization. It belonged to TKBM, the company Jong Hyun despised. To minimize casualties caused by the tomb Nero created, Jong Hyun lured everyone out with money. As the villa's guards busily chased after Rope, who was carrying the cash, Jong Hyun gave the signal for Nero to open the tomb. The tomb opened, and the TKBM villa was instantly destroyed. The interior of the tomb resembled the familiar Roman-style theater inside the Golden Palace. Here, Jong Hyun and Nero would duel fairly, witnessed by all the relics. On the other side, Kwok Taek Jun was shocked by the series of misfortunes hitting his company. To make matters worse, the CEO of TKBM received a call from Princess Sophia. She berated Kwok Taek Jun harshly after discovering that the relic she had just won was actually at Kwok Taek Jun's villa. Kwok Taek Jun was confused and angry, having no idea how this happened. So he gave Princess Sophia permission to go there. After ending the call, Kwok Taek Jun realized that the person behind all this was Seo Jong Hyun, which only fueled his anger further. Kwok Taek Jun, knowing about Jong Hyun's actions, immediately set off to Hawaii. Meanwhile, the duel between Jong Hyun and Nero had already begun, witnessed by all the relics who had read Jong Hyun's novel. Nero got angry and unleashed his flames, scorching everyone around. Jong Hyun had to quickly think of a way to calm Nero, and at the same time, win. In a short time, Jong Hyun came up with a solution. He asked Nero to bring out his novel manuscript, since the duel was a literary competition. Nero underestimated Jong Hyun, claiming that he wouldn't understand the relic language. But that was false. When Jong Hyun held the manuscript, he could read it fluently. Reading it aloud, the manuscript turned out to be very bad. Even the relics mocked Nero's work. Seeing he was going to lose, Nero threw a tantrum and attacked everyone. Nero was indeed known as a dictator. Jong Hyun dealt one last blow to Nero's morale by tearing the manuscript apart. Nero was stunned and powerless. After making Nero collapse mentally because of his terrible work, Jong Hyun claimed victory. Nero surrendered and became one of Jong Hyun's subordinate relics. At this moment, a notification appeared saying that Nero was one of the 7 keys of the Emperor of the Relic world. Though unclear for now, Jong Hyun knew he had to obtain all relics from the 7 available tombs. After the duel ended, the relics watching wanted to leave. Jong Hyun didn't allow that. He captured all relics using Rope. He thought none of them could escape, but some were rank S relics that could break Rope's bindings. So all captured relics managed to escape. Once again, Jong Hyun summoned Anubis. Anubis's task was to convince all relics that Jong Hyun was worthy of their allegiance. Anubis did this perfectly, so Jong Hyun didn't even need to use domination powers to make them obey. With everything settled, Jong Hyun closed the tomb. Outside, the scenery had completely changed. The TKBM villa was utterly destroyed. There, Kwok Taek Jun was already waiting for Jong Hyun to emerge, ready to fight. Jong Hyun smiled, knowing that this was exactly the confrontation he had been waiting for. The meeting between Jong Hyun and Kwok Taek Jun quickly heated up. Kwok Taek Jun immediately ordered all his men to attack using relics. Unfortunately, none of the attacks reached Jong Hyun. It turned out the relics used by the TKBM team were relics who admired Jong Hyun's novel, so they obeyed him. This infuriated the CEO of TKBM. He wanted to attack with firearms, but Princess Sophia was already there, furious at seeing Kwok Taek Jun with Jong Hyun. Jong Hyun further provoked Sophia by giving the Nero relic to TKBM. This was clearly to frame Kwok Taek Jun before Jong Hyun escaped. Jong Hyun fled and went to the Holton family villa. Now it was time for his next move, to listen in on what Kwok Taek Jun and Princess Sophia would discuss. Besides being angry about Jong Hyun's slander, Kwok Kwok Taek-jun revealed something interesting. He knew that the relic Sophia had won was not the Julius Caesar relic, but another relic. The TKBM CEO knew this because he held the real Julius Caesar relic. Hearing this, Jong-hyun smiled widely. How could he not? He finally discovered a relic from his past life that was difficult to know before. Preparations for the next action began. As usual, Jae-ha was tasked with restoring relics. Jae-ha was very annoyed this time because there were many new relics to finish. There were so many that Jong-hyun had to sort all the relics they obtained. The relics would be divided into two groups: useful relics that Jong-hyun would keep, and useless relics that would be sent to their base. After sorting, Jong-hyun became interested in one relic, Non-hyungrang. This relic came from the Three Kingdoms story, where a general's child could communicate with a ghost named Gildal. This relic was what stopped Gildal from attacking Jong-hyun during his encounter with Seol Ah. Realizing this, Jong-hyun ordered Jae-ha to repair that relic. After sorting, Jong-hyun met Irene. In the news, Korea had lost many people, including important figures. Hearing this, Jong-hyun realized the second tomb of the 7 major tombs would open, and that tomb was Cleopatra's. Of course, the sin sealed there was lust, which made Jae-ha very happy to hear. In another news report, not only government officials but also civilians were disappearing. This confused Jong-hyun, and he prepared to depart for Korea. Irene and Jae-ha wanted to come along, but Jong-hyun knew Cleopatra's relic was too strong for the two of them. Upon arriving in Korea, Jong-hyun noticed the traffic was strange that day. Everyone seemed to be lining up to enter a certain place. These people were heading to a mountain. When they all gathered, the tomb began to open. Here, Jong-hyun realized that the tomb he was about to face was not Cleopatra's. As the tomb opens, Jong-hyun is unaware that he has become the most coveted target inside the tomb, especially by all the women. Not only that, but he's also chased by jealous men who envy this attention. While running for his life, Jong-hyun tries to guess what relic might be hidden within this tomb. The only story that comes to his mind is Ilo and Noon, a vulgar Korean tale that fits perfectly with the sin of lust sealed inside this tomb. Cornered, Jong-hyun attempts to escape by swinging through the air with his rope, but the tomb's power forbids it. He falls to the ground, almost overwhelmed by the swarm of women. Fortunately, rope is there to fend them off, giving Jong-hyun a chance to flee deeper into the tomb. Meanwhile, Irene hides her worry. She uses a relic of the Maya god, entrusted to her by Jong-hyun, to detect what danger awaits him. The result shocks her deeply. What about you, Jae-ha? Jong-hyun's subordinate defied orders and came to Korea. He ends up entering the tomb of lust that he has long desired. But before stepping into the tomb's domain, he faces a new relic. This relic causes him, instead of being chased by women, to be chased by men. Truly, bad luck seems to follow this guy wherever he goes. Back to Jong-hyun. He has ventured deeper and discovered a house inside the tomb. To his surprise, Seol Ah is there, ready to settle scores with him. But there's something strange. Seol Ah appears oddly attracted to Jong-hyun. Before anything can happen, Irene's Midas relic activates remotely. Seol Ah, caught off guard, is ambushed and influenced by a rank B relic. This relic is easily destroyed by Muramasa. Now, with the advantage, Jong-hyun commands the relic to reveal the location of the true tomb relic. Just as Jong-hyun was about to interrogate, he was startled by the arrival of Jae-ha, who was still being chased by the silo relic. The moment the relic entered, Jong-hyun, growing impatient, immediately attacked. This broke the influence over all the men chasing Jae-ha. Now both of them had to explain things to Jong-hyun, because the silo and nun relics were both in front of him, leaving him even more confused about who truly owned this tomb. Before they could clarify, Seol Ah appeared and snatched both relics, attacking Jong-hyun with a silver relic. Jong-hyun instantly recognized it. Seol Ah had obtained this relic from the greedy king, Jin Chai-wan. Since his regression, everything had become complicated because the greedy king wasn't supposed to have started moving yet. Lost in thought, Jong-hyun was caught off guard as Seol Ah used the opportunity to begin destroying the building they were in. Seol Ah fled from both Jong-hyun and Jae-ha. Inside, Jong-hyun struggled to hold up the collapsing ruins with Van Gogh, but it was almost impossible. To make matters worse, Seol Ah returned with a follow-up attack. However, her assault failed to fully take effect, thanks again to Irene's Midas relic activating. Jong-hyun still didn't fully understand how Irene's Midas worked so well. After finally defeating Seol Ah, Jong-hyun recovered all the relics. He then ordered Silo and Noon to reveal the true owner of the tomb. The two relics opened a massive door. Jong-hyun and Jae-ha entered, followed closely by Seol Ah. Inside the tomb, they faced a giant door that could only be opened by a virgin man. Surprisingly, although Jong-hyun looked like a thug, he fit the criteria perfectly, which made Jae-ha laugh at his boss. As the door opened, the tomb's guardian relic appeared. This relic was Dalgi, the concubine of the Silver King in ancient China, notorious for her cruel and indulgent life. Upon seeing Jong-hyun, Dalgi immediately wanted to devour him, radiating a seductive power. Jong Hyun was unaffected, but Jae Ha was strongly influenced. Seol Ah was similarly affected and even wanted to offer Jae Ha to Dalgi. Sensing his energy draining rapidly under Dalgi's overwhelming influence, Jong Hyun decided to attack with Muramasa. Unfortunately, his attack failed because Dalgi harbored a secret power, the nine-tailed fox spirit. Dalgi was ready to consume Jong Hyun, but suddenly Irene's Midas relic activated again. Midas proved far stronger than Dalgi, causing a massive explosion. When the dust settled, Jong Hyun was shocked to see Irene there. Irene was confused too, as she had just been in Hawaii. But that was unimportant now. It was time to conquer Dalgi. When Irene unleashed her power again, Dalgi unexpectedly transformed into a small fox. Jong Hyun knew Dalgi was running out of energy, so it was time to hunt down the relic. Dalgi's fate was sealed. The Tomb of Lust was finally conquered. Meanwhile, at Pandora's headquarters, tensions rose sharply with the arrival of Eve Rockford, Austin Rockford's older sister. Eve had been sent to replace Austin, who was deemed incompetent. Austin was immediately escorted out by Pandora's agents. Eve cut straight to the chase, asking about Jong Hyun. Pandora's staff explained that Jong Hyun would soon be dealt with by John Richard, and Eve should focus on conquering the 7 great tombs. This was crucial because Jong Hyun was now in Korea, the location of the second tomb. Back to Jong Hyun, he had exited the tomb area, no longer alone. Jae Ha, Irene, and Seol Ah, now a hostage, were with him at his home. As usual, Jong Hyun inspected the relics he had collected. There were Silo and Nun, relics that often tested his patience, and of course Dalgi. When Dalgi appeared surprisingly, Anubis recognized her scent and became furious. It seemed that even relics had quarrels like humans. Exhausted by the antics of Anubis and Dalgi, Jong Hyun ordered Rope to calm them both down. Now they could finally rest. At that moment, Jong Hyun's longtime friend appeared, greeting him after his long stay abroad. His friend brought urgent news. Detective Kim Hyun-woo, Jong Hyun's foster brother, was in trouble. Upon hearing this, Jong Hyun hurried to Detective Kim Gun-woo's house. There, Yeon-ji-yoon, Detective Kim's wife, was arguing with Pandora's agents. Pandora had just implemented a new rule. Anyone using relics, conquering tombs, or failing to report tombs would be fined 150 million won, an absurd amount. Detective Kim's family had no choice but to conquer the relic disturbing their baby. Pandora refused to listen and forcibly entered Kim's home. Seeing this, Jong Hyun immediately took action, beating up the agents and exposing Pandora's weakness. They're scared of relics themselves, yet they claim to protect the people, he scoffed. After the agents left, Jong Hyun promised to solve Detective Kim's family's problems. Later, Jong Hyun called Edward to inquire about the strange new rule. In Jong Hyun's memory, this rule wasn't supposed to appear for another 10 years. He ordered Edward to investigate who was sponsoring this suspicious regulation. To execute his plan against Pandora, Jong Hyun contacted George Holton, requesting him to infiltrate Pandora. George refused outright. He still hated relics. Moreover, Pandora was full, with no open Senate seats. Jong Hyun calmly replied, "That seat will be vacant soon enough," and ended the call. Returning home, Jong Hyun found his roommate had been attacked by Seol Ah, who had escaped. Though worrying, they had a bigger plan against Pandora, so Seol Ah could be put aside for now. Jong Hyun then ordered Jae Ha to restore Nero. Nero wasn't broken, but was suffering from depression, rendering him unusable. Jong Hyun insisted Jae Ha fix Nero, as he was a crucial asset against Pandora. His grand strategy involved 2 relics. Nero would expose the corrupt Pandora senators, while Irene's Midas relic would be used to strike. Jong Hyun disliked relying on Irene's unpredictable power, but had no other choice. The next day, the plan was set in motion. Pandora's Korea branch erupted into chaos as everyone there suffered heavy losses. It was clear Jong Hyun and Irene had begun their attack. The attack using Irene's Midas relic was just the beginning. In no time, Nero had created a golden palace. But Nero's golden palace didn't just trap people from Pandora's Korea branch, it captured victims from other regions as well. Jean Richard even appeared amid the chaos. Once everyone realized Jong Hyun was behind this, fury erupted, but there was nothing they could do. Jong Hyun then made things worse for the trapped by commanding Nero to build a labyrinth as his masterpiece. Obsessed with being an artist, Nero obliged. The labyrinth was not the only problem. Irene's powers added even more complications inside it, increasing everyone's tension. Amid this chaos, Jong Hyun received an incredible offer. The trapped people eagerly offered money, property, and high-level relics to Jong Hyun. Of course he was pleased, but his true desire was different, secret information. Slowly, the prisoners began revealing scandals involving Jean Richard's fraud cases. Jean Richard tried to fight back, even dragging the name of the CEO of TKBM into the mess. Everything turned into chaos as people started brawling. Jong Hyun recorded every word the Pandora senators said. He planned to spread the footage to sow distrust and disarray among Pandora's ranks. After extracting all the scandalous info, Jong Hyun vanished without releasing anyone. Only Nero remained, forcing everyone to stay trapped inside the labyrinth. A fitting punishment for Pandora, who had brought misery to the people. After the incident, the video Jong Hyun took spread like wildfire. Criticism of Pandora intensified among the public. Jong Hyun then contacted George, offering him a Pandora Senate seat, since all the senators caught on video had been fired. George refused again, still disliking relics. At that moment, Jong Hyun showed him a recording where one Pandora senator confessed that Austin Rockford had framed George's father. George was furious, but Jong Hyun advised caution. For now, George only needed to accept the Senate seat. Shortly after, Jong Hyun arrived home. Jae-ha was struggling to calm Irene due to the risks her relic power posed. Suddenly, Irene ambushed Jong Hyun, leaving Jae-ha stunned. Once Irene calmed down, Jong Hyun and Jae-ha left the house. Jae-ha remarked that Irene seemed to like Jong Hyun. Her relic's effects only settled when near him. This realization made Jong Hyun think Irene might actually have feelings for him. But that thought had to wait, because now it was time to resolve Detective Kim's family issues. Jong Hyun brought out the relics he had gathered. He was touched to learn the Kim family hadn't spent any of his money yet. They wanted to save it for his wedding someday. But Jong Hyun insisted the Kim family should live comfortably. He sent them an extra 100,000 won as support. After everything settled, Jong Hyun returned home to rest. When he got to his bed, he was surprised to find someone there. It was Irene. Irene, still under the influence of relics, was a serious problem, and Jong Hyun found himself unable to escape her grasp. At first, he felt something was off. Irene was being controlled by the Silo and Noon relics, so Jong Hyun decided to discard those relics. But even without them, Irene wouldn't return to normal, cornering Jong Hyun into a tough spot. With no other choice, Jong Hyun braced himself to handle the risks of the Midas relic. When morning came, Jong Hyun woke up to find his room filled with gold, and Irene was still there. Apparently, after last night's incident, Irene had awakened another power of the Midas relic, the wealth power. This power turned everything in Jong Hyun's room into solid gold. Inspired by Irene's rising strength, Jong Hyun devised a new plan. In a large park, he took out the Hyungbu Nolbu relic, a gourd relic once given to him by the crow. Jong Hyun aimed to extract the relic's contents by using Irene's wealth power to guarantee a 100% success rate. Once infused with the wealth power, the gourd relic transformed into a shining golden color. Jong Hyun began his experiment to discover what was inside the gourd. The first gourd exploded, releasing more smaller gourds. The second gourd released several angels, but these angels turned out to be hostile. The situation worsened when other gourds burst open, unleashing demons. Jong Hyun and his allies were forced to flee as they came under attack. During the chaos, one of the demons threw a weapon, and Jong Hyun noticed it was a relic. Quick to react, he counterattacked using Muramasa. Then, Jong Hyun had a brilliant idea. Harvest the relics. He smashed all the gourds and unleashed Irene's bankruptcy power on their foes. In no time, piles of relics were collected. Meanwhile, at Pandora headquarters, a new figure was introduced. Joshua Jackson, a powerful man suffering consecutive losses due to Jong Hyun's actions, was preparing his revenge. Joshua was a key player in today's world, known as the King of Fate, because he wielded the Nostradamus relic. This relic had the most accurate power of future prediction. After using the Nostradamus relic, Joshua visited the TKBM branch office. There, Jean Richard and Kwok Taek Jun were arguing heatedly because John Richard's scandalous recording had been leaked to the public. The video revealed Jeon admitting that Kwok Taek Jun was involved in corruption within Pandora. The tense atmosphere suddenly eased when Joshua appeared. Joshua came to TKBM with a plan to form a team to defeat Jong Hyun. His strategy was simple: capture Jong Hyun's team members one by one to weaken him. Kwok Taek Jun was confused since Joshua usually preferred directly targeting the main enemy. Joshua confessed that he wanted to do that as well, but whenever he tried to read anything about Jong Hyun, he couldn't get any information. That was why he had to target Jong Hyun's subordinates for now. Meanwhile, back at Jong Hyun's place, they had finished harvesting the relics. At Jong Hyun's house, they began sorting the relics they collected. Some relics caught Jong Hyun's interest, especially defensive relics, since they hadn't had any of those before, which left them often forced to flee. Another relic that intrigued him was Odin's raven Munen's tear. According to the story, Munen was one of Odin's ravens symbolizing memory, so perhaps this relic would be useful in the future. With so many relics gathered, Jong Hyun found it overwhelming to sort them all. In the middle of this busy time, a new tomb suddenly opened in Syria. Pandora announced that this was the third tomb among the 7 Great Sin Tombs, the Tomb of Envy. Jae-ha and Irene immediately wanted to head to the tomb's location. Jong-hyun thought differently. He believed they should not rush because there was still much to be done. According to him, they could always seize the relic from whoever conquered the tomb. One likely candidate to conquer this tomb was Jean Richard. His tomb excavating power was said to dominate other excavation teams. This revelation surprised Jong-hyun. After all this, everyone returned to their routines. Jae-ha was the busiest, tasked with restoring many relics. Suddenly, an earthquake struck, causing panic. At that moment, Jong-hyun received a notification of a kidnapping. To everyone's shock, the victim was Jae-ha. Jae-ha found himself in an unfamiliar place. Several of Jong-hyun's main relics were there, including Rope, who had also been kidnapped. When Jae-ha checked his phone, it didn't work. He then realized he was inside a relic tomb. Moving further inside, Jae-ha and Rope entered a building where a relic suddenly went berserk, playing a musical instrument that terrified Jae-ha. Fortunately, Rope was there to protect him. Jae-ha, who had never fought before, was clearly overwhelmed inside the tomb. Rope became his only hope to survive while trying to find a way to contact Jong-hyun. This was not easy, since Jae-ha was constantly being chased by the relic musician. Meanwhile, Jong-hyun was pondering where Jae-ha could have been kidnapped along with the frequently used relics. He used the map relic he possessed to track them. Before he could finish, Jong-hyun received a call. It was from Jean Richard. Richard confessed that he was the one who kidnapped Jae-ha and trapped him inside the Tomb of Envy in Syria. Richard said he would only release Jae-ha if Jong-hyun revealed the secret to conquering tombs. Pandora was curious about how Jong-hyun managed to conquer various tombs with such a small team. Hearing Richard's confession, Jong-hyun laughed, convinced that Richard wouldn't be able to finish conquering that tomb and was just boasting. Jong-hyun refused Richard's offer, knowing Pandora couldn't conquer the Tomb of Envy either. Enraged by this, Jean Richard exploded with anger. But Jong-hyun hung up the phone. Shortly after, Nero appeared holding a scroll. Nero thought it was a draft for Jong-hyun's new novel, but upon reading it, Jong-hyun was shocked. It was a message from Jae-ha asking for help. After receiving Jae-ha's message, Jong-hyun quickly arrived at the tomb location in Syria. Unfortunately, they couldn't venture far inside because Jong-hyun detected Jin Chai-won, the Greed King, guarding the area. So Jong-hyun had to find a way to enter the tomb without confronting Jin Chai-won. While searching for another route, Jong-hyun unexpectedly entered a firing zone controlled by the China-Russia alliance stationed there. Seol Ah ordered her troops to shoot at Jong-hyun. Fortunately, Jong-hyun reacted quickly and used his defense relic to protect himself in an instant. He then counterattacked using the Nero relic and appeared right in front of Seol Ah. No one could stand against Jong-hyun and Nero. It came down to just Jong-hyun and Seol Ah. During their confrontation, Jong-hyun revealed something unexpected. He knew about Seol Ah's family situation. Seol Ah had become a tomb excavation agent because her family forced her to work for the China-Russia alliance. Jong-hyun offered Seol Ah freedom through a cooperation deal, but Seol Ah flatly refused and was ready to fight Jong-hyun. Jong-hyun, prepared to win once again, was suddenly surprised when the Moonin relic started glowing. It had found a suitable target. The battle between the two began. Jong-hyun struggled against Seol Ah's attacks, but he managed to use the Moonin relic. When the Moonin's tear struck Seol Ah, she immediately collapsed unconscious. It turned out Seol Ah was having a flashback of her past life. She remembered that Jong-hyun was the leader of her expedition team, that she had a special bond with Jong-hyun, and that her team had perished in a tomb that trapped them. After a while, Seol Ah woke up and immediately hugged Jong-hyun. Seeing her panic, Jong-hyun explained that they were currently 15 years before that tragic event. Jong-hyun was able to return thanks to the failure relic in their last tomb expedition. Jong-hyun then asked Seol Ah about his offer to join his expedition team. He didn't force her because he knew Seol Ah desired freedom. Surprisingly, Seol Ah agreed and was ready to cooperate in conquering the Tomb of Envy, even betraying Jin Chai-won, her current superior. After Seol Ah recovered, Jong-hyun met with Nero. Nero had finished conquering all their enemies. Now it was time for the main mission, rescuing their relic restorer. Here, Seol Ah realized the one they had to save was Yu Jae-ha. After recruiting Seol Ah, Jong-hyun introduced her to Irene. Seol Ah panicked instantly because she remembered Irene was the queen of bankruptcy. Jong-hyun reassured Seol Ah that Irene was now an ally and a good person. Irene, seeing Seol Ah, was also confused because they had been enemies not long ago. Irene even felt an inexplicable jealousy towards Seol Ah. Their rescue mission continued. Jong-hyun kept receiving information from Jae-ha, including details about the relic they would face. This relic turned out to be Antonio Salieri. a talented Italian musician who mentored Beethoven but was also full of jealousy towards Mozart. Salieri was truly fitting for the Tomb of Envy. Inside the tomb, Jae-ha constantly faced many dangers. Not only Salieri, but there was also another relic he had to avoid. Rope was there, saving Jae-ha from various threats. But when they were surrounded, Jae-ha and Rope could do little. Thankfully, at this critical moment, Jong-hyun appeared to rescue Jae-ha. Facing Salieri, Jong-hyun used the fire relic and launched an attack together with Seol Ah. Spotting an opening, Seol Ah immediately saved Jae-ha. Seeing Jae-ha afraid of Seol Ah, she realized his memories hadn't returned yet. Fortunately, Jae-ha was still a coward and, with a little threat, agreed to follow Seol Ah to escape. Once Jae-ha was safe, Seol Ah appeared with the relic Jong-hyun needed. Using Muramasa, Jong-hyun was ready to fight all the relics inside the Tomb of Envy. The battle between Jong-hyun and the Salieri relic began. Empowered, Salieri went on a rampage, commanding all his minions to play music. Jong-hyun immediately activated his defense relic and then summoned the Hammurabi relic, which smashed all the enemies away. Jong-hyun noticed a similarity between Salieri and Nero. Both were respected figures filled with malicious traits. So, Jong-hyun provoked Salieri by calling Mozart a far better musician. This enraged Salieri, who furiously attacked Jong-hyun by throwing all his musical instruments. Blinded by anger, Salieri left many openings, and Jong-hyun took advantage with a decisive strike that rendered Salieri powerless. The tomb should have been conquered, but unexpectedly, another relic shaped like a chess piece took control of the tomb from Salieri. When the tomb was seized, madness spread to everyone inside. Not only Seol Ah, but all of Jong-hyun's relics were affected by the madness of envy. Jong-hyun was helpless as Seol Ah suddenly started attacking him. Unable to use his relics, Jong-hyun was pressured relentlessly by Seol Ah. The relic exerting this pressure was confused why Jong-hyun could still move, so it transformed into incense, increasing the envy's pressure inside the tomb. Even Jong-hyun was affected, feeling jealous of himself, an unusual sight indeed. Just when it seemed Jong-hyun would be finished, Jae-ha appeared to stop both Jong-hyun and Seol Ah. Jae-ha destroyed the relic that had trapped them, allowing everyone to escape. Jae-ha, tasked with carrying items, almost fell under the influence of a relic inside the tomb, but Rope stopped it just in time. In Rope's hands was the Mnemosyne memory coin relic, inspired by the Greek goddess of memory. Jong-hyun recognized this relic as the one Mik-ji Chai-won had used to spy on him. Seol Ah, being Chai-won's subordinate, confirmed this fact. Without hesitation, Jong-hyun used the relic correctly this time. Instead of keeping it, he detonated the rank C relic to break free from the tomb. The massive explosion was witnessed by Irene, who immediately picked them up as they escaped. As they fled, they noticed a TV station's vehicle heading toward the explosion site at the tomb. Jong-hyun came up with a brilliant idea to use the TV broadcast to attack Pandora once more. He told Yoo Jae-ha that it was time to retaliate against Jean Richard. Meanwhile, Jean Richard was giving an interview. He was invited by the media to talk about his team's excavation of the Tomb of Envy. Jean Richard claimed he was close to conquering the tomb and ending Seo Jong-hoon's solo acts. Suddenly, chaos erupted during the broadcast. The TV station received news that the tomb had already been conquered. A video was played showing Jong-hyun and Jae-ha at the scene. Jong-hyun revealed that he had obtained the Salieri relic, the master of the Tomb of Envy. This enraged Jean Richard, who had been boasting about his ability to conquer the tomb. Jong-hyun struck another blow. Jae-ha admitted he was a victim of Jean Richard's crimes when the bald man was his teacher. Jae-ha confessed that Jean Richard couldn't paint and all his famous paintings were stolen from him. Jean Richard was left speechless, only able to stare as Jong-hyun dealt a heavy blow to his pride. Though speechless, Jean Richard, who was live on media, had no choice but to give an explanation to save his face and protect Pandora. He claimed they might have lost this time, but would win next time, the classic excuse. He also accused Yoo Jae-ha of plagiarism. Meanwhile, in Jong-hyun's group, Yoo Jae-ha was forced to use various defensive relics because he would be the one most frequently kidnapped. Attacking a relic restorer is expected to become a common tactic in the future. Before they could finish discussing this, Yoo Jae-ha was kidnapped again. Fortunately, Jong-hyun was there and ready to follow him. At the kidnapper's location, Jean Richard was waiting with a firearm. Luckily, Jong-hyun managed to handle the situation with his defense relic. This was the first time Yoo Jae-ha used an offensive relic, even an S-rank relic, Salieri. As a result, Jae-ha felt an unexpected effect and fainted from exhaustion. Seeing the chaos, Jong-hyun took advantage and escaped from the scene. This second kidnapping by Jean Richard caused more trouble for him, as it went viral in the media once again. After everything settled, Jong Hyun and Seol Ah made a work contract. Of course, Jong Hyun said the contract was sealed using a relic. Seol Ah agreed, especially since her memories had returned. Shortly after, Jae-ha also appeared. Seol Ah asked Jong Hyun why Jae-ha's memories hadn't been restored. Jong Hyun revealed he hadn't returned Jae-ha's memories because of Jae-ha's past personality, the so-called King of Thieves. While restoring his memories would make Jae-ha stronger and more skilled with relics, it would also unearth his past traumas. Seol Ah agreed, saying that Jae-ha was better off the way he was now. Meanwhile, the frustrated Jean Richard was constantly scolded by Kwok Taek-jun. Not only had Jean Richard failed at the Tomb of Envy, but he also damaged several valuable relics belonging to Kwok Taek-jun. Jean Richard, proud but clueless, angrily tried to contact Jin Chai-wan, the King of Greed. Switching to the China-Russia excavation team, Jin Chai-wan received a report from his team. One of them mentioned getting a call from Jean Richard. When Jin Chai-wan answered, he flatly refused whatever Jean Richard wanted. Jin Chai-wan wanted to focus on Jong Hyun, the man who conquered the Tomb of Envy that should have belonged to him. Jin Chae-won was known as the King of Greed for a reason. He had a reputation for getting everything he desired. The next day, Jong Hun and Jae-ha attended various media outlets to expose John Richard's plagiarism. They revealed the relic used by the bald man, the Conan Doyle mirror mask, named after the author of the famous Sherlock Holmes series. This relic allowed Jean Richard to transform into anyone, so when he painted in Jae-ha's style, he actually transformed into Jae-ha. That's why Jean Richard never painted directly. In truth, he couldn't paint at all. Strangely, despite all the media appearances, not a single news outlet reported anything about Jean Richard. Instead, the opposite happened. Jean Richard kept appearing in the media, issuing clarifications, even after Jong Hyun used a relic on Jean Richard through Seol Ah. The plagiarism news about Jean Richard never reached the public. This frustrated Jong Hyun greatly. One night, he received an email. The center wanted to help Jong Hyun expose Jean Richard's plagiarism publicly, but with a price to be paid later. After that email, the very next day, the plagiarism news about Jean Richard finally broke in public. Jong Hyun realized only the Crescent Moon King, Wade Harmon, could have done this. Even though he knew Wade Harmon was evil in his past life, Jong Hyun now cared most about restoring Yu Jae-ha's reputation. With the media buzz growing, John Richard could no longer deny the accusations. Jong Hyun returned to the media and challenged Jean Richard to a painting competition against Jae-ha. This made Jean Richard extremely frustrated. Despite having bribed the media, the narrative was now working against him. To force Jean Richard to accept the challenge, Jong Hyun and reporters stormed Jean Richard's residence. At this point, Jean Richard had no more excuses and agreed to the match. The competition would revolve around Jean Richard's most famous painting, which both had to recreate. During the match, Jean Richard struggled. He had lost his ability to paint. Jong Hyun revealed the truth. The Conan Doyle relic had a side effect where the user's true identity would be lost. That was why Jean Richard could no longer paint. With this, the match between Jae-ha and John Richard ended. After his defeat by Jae-ha, Jean Richard refused to accept it and flew into a rage upon realizing all the reporters had seen through his lies. Jean Richard attempted to escape using a glowing relic, but Jong Hyun immediately ordered rope to seal all the rooms. As a result, Jean Richard was caught red-handed, disguised as a statue. News of Jean Richard's capture quickly spread. Joshua, Jean Richard's sponsor, was furious that Jong Hyun had once again won. In his rage, Joshua beated everyone until George Holton suddenly appeared and stopped him. George was now a Pandora senator and intimidated Joshua by revealing he knew Joshua had collaborated with Austin to poison his own parents. Back with Jong Hyun's group, Jae-ha, despite his victory, still felt insecure. This worried everyone because Jae-ha's confidence was crucial for restoring relics. So, Jong Hyun organized a solo exhibition for Jae-ha to boost his morale. Although Jae-ha still had bad luck since Jong Hyun would take 90% of the exhibition's profits. The next day, Jong Hyun received news that Pandora had created a global ranking for relic users. It was time to see what rank Jong Hyun's team had earned. Jong Hyun was listed as one of the kings, nicknamed the King of Robbers. This caused everyone, including Jae-ha and George Holton, to mock him. Frustrated, Jong Hyun could only keep looking at the rankings. Surprisingly, every member of Jong Hyun's group was recognized as one of the best relic users worldwide. This made them even more cautious about future threats. During their discussion, Jong Hyun's phone rang. The caller was Wade Harmon, the so-called West Wind King, who controlled the media. Wade Harmon was the one who had helped Jong Hyun publicize the news about Jean Richard. He proposed a partnership to Jong Hyun for tomb conquests. Jong Hyun had to be careful because Harmon possessed the Goebbels relic, inspired by the story of the mustachioed aide Yuang, which allowed him to control the news. Wade Harmon offered a fair deal for from information about the 7 deadly sins tombs to a relic called the King's Treasure. Jong Hyun agreed, but there was one surprising catch. Wade Harmon was currently facing a dangerous man named Julian Miller. Though surprised, Jong Hyun didn't say much. He immediately wanted to meet Wade Harmon. On a luxurious plane, the two met. Jong Hyun witnessed what Julian Miller had done, completely wiping out Harmon's excavation team. Harmon asked Jong Hyun to finish Miller off so they could start digging up the tomb, then split the profits fairly. After agreeing, Jong Hyun headed to Syria. There, Seol Ah suddenly remembered that this place was the home of Ali, the man who was supposed to be the king of the sect. Jong Hyun said that wouldn't happen because the relic of Ali was in his possession. Still, Ali remained one of the strongest in Syria. This meant Jong Hyun's team was caught in a three-way conflict: Ali, Julian Miller, and Wade Harmon. Jong Hyun also revealed the relic Miller used, the thunder relic inspired by the Indian god of war, Indra. The relic was powerful but had weaknesses, and they just had to exploit them. In the Syrian desert, Julian Miller was on the move, crushing rival groups and taking their relics. But Miller's actions were actually to protect the nearby villagers. As always, this man's sense of justice was sky high. After his attack, Miller received news that Jong Hyun had arrived in Syria and joined Wade Harmon's team. This made Miller order his troops to move quickly before Jong Hyun could make his move. At Jong Hyun's base, Wade Harmon's crew was busy. They were in a tough spot. Jong Hyun offered an absurd profit split, 9 to himself, 1 to them. But they couldn't refuse since Jong Hyun was the only one capable of stopping Miller. After everyone agreed, Jong Hyun set out for Miller's location. It didn't take long for Jong Hyun to find Miller. They clashed immediately with Miller wielding the Indra relic. Jong Hyun activated his defense relic. His home relic had always been his safe haven, and he easily provoked Miller. What Miller didn't realize was that Jong Hyun had prepared something unexpected. Jae-ha released all of Jong Hyun's female fans to swarm Miller's location. This caused a huge chaos. Miller was furious because Jong Hyun endangered innocent civilians. Once all the women arrived, Jong Hyun finally emerged from his relic. Suddenly, Miller's relic went berserk. The relic apparently loved women and became unstable. Overjoyed, the relic attacked Miller for allowing women to be in the middle of the desert. Eventually, Miller was defeated by his own relic. Falling down, Miller was swarmed by Jong Hyun's fans, who remembered his promise to date anyone who could get him back up. Miller couldn't withstand this and used his power to put all the women unconscious, allowing him to continue fighting Jong Hyun. Jong Hyun activated his defense relic again. Miller was confused as Jong Hyun didn't attack. It turned out Jong Hyun activated a low-level relic to mock the Indra relic. Indra retaliated, but the attacks hit Miller instead. After being hit twice by the godly relic, Miller was knocked out. Jong Hyun didn't mean harm to Miller and even offered him a contract to join the excavation team. Though Jong Hyun threatened to expose photos of Miller with the women, Miller ultimately agreed to the contract. After joining the team, Miller revealed that Wade Harmon's group was searching for the Pak Kumis relic. The Gobbles relic and the Pak Kumis relic, if united, would become incredibly powerful, making Wade Harmon stronger than Pandora. Jong Hyun was already aware of this plan and actually intended to betray the Crescent Wind King. His betrayal was simple: conquer the tombs in Syria and give nothing to Wade Harmon. It was time for them all to enter the tomb. Miller was shocked by Jong Hyun's excavation method. He blew up all the paths leading inside the tomb. As they ventured deeper, the tomb was revealed to contain a plague relic. What shocked Jong Hyun was that they weren't just facing one plague relic, but several. At that moment, Jong Hyun realized he had been trapped by Wade Harmon. In this desperate situation, Jong Hyun's entire team activated their relics to avoid the incoming diseases. After a long battle and detonating numerous relics, Jong Hyun's team finally managed to defeat the plague relics. They even found several useful relics, including a bag belonging to the god of plague. Miller wanted to keep this bag, not trusting Jong Hyun to not misuse the relic. Amidst their debate, Seol Ah and Jae-ha were struck by effects from another plague relic. Jong Hyun ordered everyone to enter his pig house relic while he fought alone. He did something simple but effective, detonating dozens of relics simultaneously while shielding himself with the Medusa shield relic. Jong Hyun won and managed to obtain the legendary plague relic, Hippocrates. After defeating the relic, Jong Hyun's group left the tomb and took their medical relics. Jong Hyun also took the plague god's bag relic from Miller in exchange for the medical relics. Then, Jong Hyun did something crazy. He drank the contents of the Hippocrates relic, causing everyone to panic. Jong Hyun drank Hippocrates with one goal: to meet the plague god Nergal from Mesopotamian legend. The ritual worked. Nergal appeared, and they formed a contract because Nergal admired Jong Hyun's resistance to poison. With this relic secured, Julian Miller was angry, believing the relic could be dangerous to humans. Jong Hyun assured him he would only use it once. Elsewhere, Wade Harmon and his crew were hit by a wave of dirty water, trapping them. This was caused by Jong Hyun using Nergal's power. After being washed by the water, Harmon's entire crew was infected with a disease that was difficult to cure. Back with Jong Hyun's group, peace returned. Miller admitted Jong Hyun was a good person for not abusing the Nergal relic, especially after Jong Hyun destroyed Nergal right before his eyes. Suddenly, the tomb collapsed as the main relic was conquered. Outside the tomb, Jong Hyun and Miller agreed to cooperate because Miller believed Jong Hyun was trustworthy. However, once Miller left, Jong Hyun gathered the shards of the Nergal relic to restore it. There was no way Jong Hyun would simply discard such a powerful relic like Nergal. After all the chaos that had happened, a few days later, a commotion broke out. Wade Harmon was furious, demanding to meet a woman named Jin Chae-won. Jin Chae-won was known as the Greed King, possessing various powerful relics. Wade Harmon wanted to use Jin Chae-won's medical relic, but she ended his life with her power instead. Now, Jin Chae-won began to see Jong Hyun as a serious threat and wanted to meet him immediately. Meanwhile, Jong Hyun and his team were holding a relic auction. One of the items up for sale was the plague god relic, Nergal. This angered Miller, who felt deceived, but Jong Hyun assured him everything was under control. How could it not be? The buyer of this relic was Irene Holton, a woman obsessed with Jong Hyun. Learning about Irene and Jong Hyun's connection, Seol Ah suddenly felt conflicted. This was because Seol Ah had been Jong Hyun's lover in a previous life, so she was deeply troubled by her lingering feelings. In the midst of her confusion, Seol Ah took a day off and encountered a suspicious servant. The servant turned out to be Jin Chae-won in disguise, using a camouflage relic. This put Seol Ah in danger since she was one of the people who had betrayed Jin Chae-won by siding with Jong Hyun. Meanwhile, Jong Hyun was busy hearing news that the excavation he was conducting in Syria had become a major problem. Pandora was monopolizing tomb excavations by selling permits. The buyers of Syrian tomb permits were furious at Pandora, but for Jong Hyun, this was irrelevant since he had not broken any rules. Pandora's regulation stated that excavation teams with fewer than 10 members didn't need to buy permits. With his small team, Jong Hyun was clearly benefiting from this rule. Unfortunately for Seol Ah, she was kidnapped and trapped inside a fake tomb created by Jin Chae-won. Jin Chae-won only wanted to imitate Seol Ah's appearance to easily get close to Jong Hyun. It didn't take long before Jin Chae-won reached Jong Hyun's apartment, but unexpectedly, Jong Hyun mocked Jin Chae-won right in front of her disguised men. He called her old and shameless on purpose because he knew that the Seol Ah before him was actually Jin Chae-won in disguise. This was easy for Jong Hyun to figure out thanks to notifications from his crow relic. After the disguise was exposed, a battle between them began. Jin Chae-won was too powerful. She could open tombs anywhere. This not only caused Jong Hyun's apartment to change shape, but also inflicted plague attacks on him and made all his relics scream in pain. This was extremely dangerous, so Jong Hyun chose to retreat. Unfortunately, as Jong Hyun tried to escape, Jin Chae-won had already transformed the place into a tomb, trapping him inside with no way out. Even after detonating relics as he usually did, Jong Hyun could do nothing because the tomb kept regenerating itself. To make matters worse, all of Jong Hyun's relics became fearful, rendering him powerless to fight back. Jin Chae-won laughed wickedly as Jong Hyun was betrayed by his own frightened relics. But Jong Hyun wasn't out of ideas. He launched a barehanded attack, landing a solid hit on Jin Chae-won. This angered her relic, which sensed the power of the crow relic. Her relic then took control, transforming into a terrifying giant spider. The relic revealed it was involved in imprisoning the crow relic long ago. The power of Jin Chae-won's relic was so overwhelming that none of Jong Hyun's relics dared to stand against it, except for his loyal follower, Rope. Then a miracle happened. Rope evolved once again into an S-rank relic. This shocked all relics present, including Jin Chae-won's spider relic, which panicked because historically, relics shouldn't evolve to avoid disrupting the relic rankings. Rope's upgrade allowed it to hold Jin Chae-won's relic back for a short moment. Jong Hyun seized this opportunity to escape from the giant spider. At this crucial moment, Jong Hyun summoned all his relics and gave them a choice: fight or flee. He also realized to his anger that his 3 Egyptian god relics had run away. Before he could find answers, new danger arrived. the spider relic reached Jong Hyun's location and unleashed several high-level relics to join the battle. Usually calm, Jong Hyun now began to panic. The battle was inevitable. Jong Hyun started using Hammurabi. Fortunately, there was still a powerful relic named Nero on his side. Seeing Nero, the spider relic became furious, feeling betrayed. Nero was also angry because the spider relic had never been chosen as leader of the relics. This made Jong Hyun curious about the relic world's deeper mysteries, but explanations could wait. Right now, he needed to escape. Nero, a high-level relic, managed to hold off the spider's forces and unleashed its signature power, the Golden Palace. Inside the Golden Palace, Jong Hyun began sorting through his relics. Some had fled, but some were ready to fight. He divided his forces into two groups, one to assist his attack and another to defend with Nero. Jong Hyun then launched his strategy, not by attacking the spider directly, but by targeting Jin Chai-wan, who was unconscious. No matter how powerful her relics were, if their user was KO, they were useless. The spider relic immediately sensed Jong Hyun's plan and transferred its consciousness into Jin Chai-wan's body. Fortunately, this was anticipated by Jong Hyun. Although his troops were only C-rank relics, their numbers allowed them to push Jin Chai-wan's body backward. Jong Hyun didn't need a decisive victory. He only had to force Jin Chai-wan out of the apartment. Using portals created by the Silo and Nun relics with one strong push, Jong Hyun succeeded in sending Jin Chai-wan's body into the portal. Even the overpowering spider relic couldn't do anything and had to retreat. Jong Hyun still benefited greatly because all the monsters under the spider relic remained behind. Relics he planned to conquer and harvest again. Outside the apartment, Irene, Seol Ah, Jae-ha, and even Jong Hyun's gang anxiously arrived. When the apartment exploded, panic grew, but shortly after, Jong Hyun appeared from the rubble smiling. Within moments, the incident at Jong Hyun's apartment became headline news everywhere, shocking everyone, including his own group. He had just defeated the King of Greed and even stolen his relic. Though victorious, Jong Hyun was exhausted and fainted. Meanwhile, Jin Chai-wan was furious over her defeat and even scolded her relic for taking over her body without permission. Determined to escalate, she entered a vault filled with relics and unleashed sealed relics. A few days later, Jong Hyun's group appeared calm. Jae-ha was still stressed over the many relics that needed restoration. Meanwhile, Jae-ha and Seol Ah noticed the news about a new relic user, a suspicious relic that appeared in various places, choosing its master instantly without the usual tomb conquest. This news quickly went viral. Even Pandora had yet to comment. Amid all this chaos, Jong Hyun, the team leader, remained unconscious from the previous battle. During a discussion, George Holton called Irene with shocking news. 15 king seats for relic users had already been filled. This was due to the newly appeared unique relic. This situation jeopardized Jong Hyun's plan to dominate the king seats. Unfortunately, Jong Hyun was still asleep. After hearing the news about the 15 king relics being chosen, Jong Hyun finally woke up. Seeing the serious expressions of everyone, he immediately knew something big had happened. He was also shocked by the existence of the new relic because the circumstances were highly unusual. Although the situation was dire, there was little Jong Hyun could do now except stay within their strategy. More bad news followed. Jae-ha discovered many rumors about Jong Hyun, ranging from not paying taxes, selling relics illegally, to the most ridiculous. Rumors that Jong Hyun had a 9-year-old child. These rumors infuriated both Irene and Seol Ah. Luckily, Jong Hyun still had a childhood photo of himself. Blonde hair and fair skin, very different from his current appearance, making it clear the rumors about his child were nonsense. These rumors were complicated to debunk because Wade Harmon wasn't behind them, since Jong Hyun had destroyed Harmon's Gobble's relic. After sorting out the rumors, Jong Hyun turned his attention to the relics he had just acquired from Jin Chai-wan. He began sorting through which relics he could use. Among them were the Pygmalion relic, inspired by the Greek sculptor who fell in love with his own statue, and the fire relic of Hephaestus, the Greek god of blacksmiths. These relics were clearly useful for Yu Jae-ha. The next day, Jong Hyun's group prepared to move again, heading back to Asia for another tomb excavation. Miller was already famous there for battling many excavation teams. An interesting thing caught Jong Hyun's attention. A photo of a boy who looked like him. This made Jong Hyun angry and determined to confront the boy, who was likely a relic user imitating him. The scene shifts to Kazakhstan, where a commotion erupts in front of a tomb. The TKBM team is furious because they cannot easily excavate the tomb. They must pass through Julian Miller. Besides TKBM, there are other excavation teams present, including one with a boy who looks remarkably like Jong Hyun. None of them can enter the tomb because Miller only allows one person inside, due to the notorious reputation of the teams in front for sacrificing their own members. Amid the heated debate, an expected figure appears, Seo Jong Hyun himself. In an innocent tone, Jong Hyun claims that Miller is now his subordinate, which explains why Miller is holding everyone back. Miller, one of the strongest people in the world, takes offense to this and immediately fights Jong Hyun. Seeing this opportunity, all the groups unite to fight Jong Hyun, who has become a barrier to their excavation efforts. Elsewhere inside the tomb, Jong Hyun and his team are already deep within. What's happening outside is merely a ruse. He uses a relic to create a clone of himself there. Now it's time to begin excavating the Kazakhstan tomb. Inside, rows of statues shaped like ancient Chinese royal guards are neatly arranged. Jong Hyun quickly realizes the tomb's relic owner wants to play a game of chess. About to start the chess game, Jong Hyun discovers it's an ancient version of chess. He provokes the tomb's relic owner to change the basic rules of the game, arguing it's unfair since Jong Hyun doesn't know the original rules. The relic agrees. Jong Hyun knew it would because the tomb's relic is The Art of War, written by the great Chinese general Sun Tzu, legendary for his military treatises. Jong Hyun pushes the relic further away from a simple chess game because he knows he will never win by the rules. With no agreed rules left, Jong Hyun provokes a direct battle, which the Art of War relic accepts. Now, Jong Hyun and his team must fight stone statues. But things don't go smoothly. Jong Hyun's clone outside has already been defeated, forcing the team to split up. Jae-ha and Seol Ah will hold off the other excavation teams outside, while Jong Hyun focuses on fighting inside. Outside the tomb, everyone, including Miller, is shocked when Jong Hyun suddenly disappears before their eyes. Only Miller realizes they were fighting Jong Hyun's clone all along. Then, the crowd rushes into the tomb, only to be taunted by a statue of Jong Hyun. Unbeknownst to them, this statue was prepared by Jae-ha to lure all the groups into a trap room. It didn't take long for Yoo Jae-ha's brilliant strategy to trap everyone inside the trap room. Julian Miller also arrived at the scene. Miller was not pleased with what Jae-ha had done. Unfortunately for Miller, he didn't realize that Jae-ha had already prepared a relic for him, a relic that trapped Miller inside an illusion of the Three Kingdoms era war. Worse yet, Miller's Zhuge Liang relic was very fragile against the Three Kingdoms era, which was another of Miller's weaknesses. This made Yoo Jae-ha laugh at Miller, who, despite being considered a very powerful entity, had many vulnerabilities. Meanwhile, some excavators had reached the edge of the trap room. They came out searching for Jong Hyun, but before long, Jong Hyun appeared right in front of them. In front of everyone, Jong Hyun announced that he had finished conquering the tomb and was just about to seal it. Everyone was shocked that Jong Hyun had managed to conquer the tomb all by himself. Here, Jong Hyun also encountered the boy he was after, Louis Martin, the boy pretending to be his son. Louis held a grudge against Jong Hyun because Jong Hyun had ended the career of General Kira. Jong Hyun realized that Kira had recruited many talented kids like Louis. Fueled by anger, Louis activated the Gobble's relic to influence everyone. Jong Hyun was confused because he had destroyed that relic before. The Crow system explained that this was a fake relic, but it worked 100%. This led Jong Hyun to one of the most OP relics, the Leonardo da Vinci relic. This relic belonged to Jae-ha in his past life, the relic that made Jae-ha the king of trickery. Despite being attacked, Jong Hyun was happy because he didn't expect to encounter the Leonardo da Vinci relic so quickly. The battle continued with Louis turning the entire room into a museum with his relic. All the artworks tried to fight Jong Hyun, but none were effective against him using Hephaestus's fire to counterattack. The immense power of this relic caused a massive explosion that also hit Yoo Jae-ha. At this point, Jong Hyun had decisively won and bound Louis with rope. Jong Hyun immediately wanted to take the Da Vinci relic, but it wasn't in Louis' possession. Jong Hyun did not detect any lies, so he believed Louis and now had to find out who was controlling Louis and enabling him to use the Da Vinci relic. After dealing with the boy using rope, Jong Hyun was finally informed that the Da Vinci relic was in the United States. This relic was very important, so it was kept at the Pentagon, the US headquarters. Now, Jong Hyun just needed a solid strategy to get in there. While thinking, Jong Hyun ended up having to argue with Miller. This hero refused to interrogate, let alone kidnap a child, so he demanded Jong Hyun release Louis. The two inevitably clashed in battle. Amidst all the chaos, Rope got distracted and accidentally let Louis escape. In the end, the boy holding the key to the Da Vinci relic ran away. But don't worry, Jong Hyun managed to secure a piece of Louis' torn clothing, making it easier to track him down. Back at their base, Jong Hyun's group returned to their tasks. Jae-ha remained busy restoring relics. Seol Ah gathered information, and Yong-hyun searched for Louis's whereabouts. It turned out that information about Louis was tightly guarded for several reasons. The boy was not just an American agent, but was also soon to become one of the Relic Kings, known as the King of Trickery. Because of this, they had to move quickly, and Yong-hyun decided to restrict Louis's movements. One of the actions he took was contacting George Holton. Jong-hyun forced George to create a new rule in Pandora. Minors were forbidden from becoming relic users. The next day, news broke that Pandora limited relic use for children under 12 years old. If a child wanted to use a relic, they had to store it with their parents. This regulation worked to Jong-hyun's advantage. He planned to use the hoax about Louis being his son. Although Yong-hyun would go viral for claiming to have a child, he thought it was worth it if it meant getting the Da Vinci relic. Besides, the fake fatherhood story was only a backup plan if the kidnapping mission failed. On the other hand, Louis was furious when he heard about the rule because it would further restrict his movements. Louis' complaints became a jackpot for TKBM. They tried to recruit Louis by promising that Kwok Taek-jun, CEO of TKBM, would become his guardian. Louis was naturally happy, especially since TKBM was famous as a highly successful tomb excavation company. Back to Jong-hyun, who was busy planning Louis' kidnapping when Edward called. Edward was in charge of forging the DNA test between Yong-hyun and Louis. But there was something strange. Yong-hyun's submitted DNA sample was identical to Louis. Jong-hyun was shocked and panicked, but became even more confused when he found out the sample given to Edward wasn't his, but Yu Jae-ha's. Technically, Louis was now Jae-ha's child. Even worse, their DNA was more like that of identical twins rather than a parent and child. This stressed Jae-ha out even more. Jong-hyun's group then suspected that Louis might actually be a relic, considering Nero could also transform into a human form. Here, Jong-hyun had a good card in hand. Even if Jae-ha was stressed, he could use their DNA similarity to make Jae-ha Louis' guardian if the kidnapping failed. The next day, Jong-hyun's group quickly set out to the place where Louis was. They were all shocked to find Louis riding in a car with Yoon Si-woo, the vice chairman of TKBM. Jong-hyun immediately ordered Seol Ah to send Gildal into the car to find out where they were going. From what Gildal overheard, Louis was about to sign a contract with Kwok Taek-jun, making the TKBM CEO his guardian. Jong-hyun knew exactly that Kwok Taek-jun wanted to recruit talented people like Louis. This was interesting, especially since Jong-hyun had Jae-ha, whose DNA was much closer to Louis's. Victory was already 99%. When Louis entered the TKBM building, he immediately met Kwok Taek-jun. Without wasting time, the CEO handed Louis a guardian contract. The terms were simple. Kwok Taek-jun only wanted to use the Da Vinci relic a few times, which Louis agreed to. Just as everyone was happy, suddenly the building's alarm rang and the lights went out. Gildal had already kidnapped Louis in an instant. This caused Kwok Taek-jun to panic and order all his members to search for Louis. It didn't take long before Jong-hyun, the cause of the chaos, was surrounded. Kwok Taek-jun laughed at Jong-hyun since he had just signed the guardian contract. But Kwok Taek-jun clearly didn't know that Jong-hyun had a winning card. Jong-hyun immediately presented the DNA test between Jae-ha and Louis, which stunned everyone because it proved Louis was Jae-ha's child. Kwok Taek-jun, unable to accept this fact, demanded a DNA retest by his team. He was left speechless because Jae-ha and Louis' DNA were indeed very similar. With this, Jong-hyun's group once again crushed TKBM's grand plans. After securing Louis, Jong-hyun didn't waste time. He immediately took Louis to the Pentagon. Although Louis was furious and Jae-ha was mentally shaken, Jong-hyun didn't care because securing the Da Vinci relic was far more important. During the journey, the train they were using suddenly crashed due to the appearance of a tomb. Jong-hyun received a notification from the Crow relic that the tomb's appearance was caused by another relic, so Jong-hyun was sure they were under attack. Quickly, Jong-hyun ordered Seol Ah to use Gildal to evacuate everyone inside. Outside the train, Joshua, one of the relic users at the king level, was already there. He was the attacker and wanted to take Louis because Louis was a very valuable asset. Joshua easily succeeded by using his relic to capture Louis. Now, Joshua had only one goal left: to eliminate Jong-hyun, who was also there. Now that Joshua had Louis in his hands, he immediately tried to finish off Jong-hyun, who was still hiding inside the train. Joshua wasn't holding back. He went straight for the nuclear bomb relic, born from humanity's fear of all-out nuclear war. As the massive attack hit, Jong-hyun relied on the Hammurabi relic and Aegis for protection, though Aegis was trembling with fear the entire time. When the dust settled, Joshua was all smiles. But not for long. To his surprise, the train carrying Jong-hyun was completely intact. Even more shocking, Jong-hyun himself emerged unscathed. Jong-hyun then counterattacked using Hammurabi, leveling everything. Except for Louis, of course. He made sure not to harm the kid. Despite taking heavy damage, Joshua stayed on his feet, transferring his wounds to one of his subordinates. Realizing how dangerous things could get, Jong-hyun once again tied Louis up with the rope relic to keep him from escaping. Now, all that was left was a one-on-one with Joshua. Joshua wasn't called the King of Fate for no reason. His relics were broken-level powerful. He had two main relics, Temple of Delphi, which showed him glimpses of the future when he slept inside it. Unfortunately, it wasn't combat usable, and Century of Nostradamus, based on the French scholar famous for his war and disaster prophecies. This relic was his real weapon. Anything Joshua said would come true within seconds. That meant Jong-hyun couldn't let him speak, so he launched relentless attacks, trying to keep Joshua on the defensive and unable to utter a single word. But things got complicated. Joshua could teleport with ease, slipping past Jong-hyun's strikes. Worse, he could now use the Nostradamus relic freely. After dodging Jong-hyun's attacks, Joshua finally got the chance to speak. He declared that Jong-hyun would die here. But nothing happened. Jong-hyun wasn't affected at all. Instead, he landed hit after hit on Joshua with no resistance. Why? Because Jong-hyun had blocked his hearing using a noisy, seemingly useless relic. The weakness of the Nostradamus relic? If the target doesn't hear the prophecy, it doesn't work. Once again, Jong-hyun had countered an OP relic with a completely trash one. Joshua was helpless, beaten down so hard that he even thought about surrendering. But Jong-hyun knew better. He knew Joshua would never give up that easily, so he kept going, relentlessly pounding Joshua until he was knocked out cold. Then, something strange happened. Joshua's body changed. It wasn't even his real body. Turned out he had used a relic that let him switch bodies with someone else. Jong-hyun had guessed this might happen, so he didn't hold back. Even if Joshua was miles away, he'd still feel the pain of that beating. Back at Joshua's real location, his body was writhing in pain. Furious, he reviewed the mission files on eliminating Jong-hyun, submitted by various parties. One in particular caught his attention, a file from John Smith, a mysterious figure who somehow knew about the Crow relic. Joshua planned to use that info against Jong-hyun. Meanwhile, back with Jong-hyun's group, the fight with Joshua was over. But another problem remained. The tomb that had appeared still needed to be cleared. Since someone had to guard Louis to keep him from escaping again, Jong-hyun decided to go into the tomb with only Jae-ha. This relic tomb had taken the form of Wolji Lake. Upon arrival, Jong-hyun and Jae-ha were immediately invited aboard a boat. The boat carried them across the water to a luxurious pavilion where, to their surprise, a feast had already been prepared. Seeing this, Jong-hyun immediately guessed the relic in this tomb was connected to Wolji Lake, a famous man-made lake once used for royal celebrations during the Silla dynasty. Turns out there were many relics within the lake, but the host of this tomb was the 14-sided dice, also known as Juryeongu. This relic originated from an old Korean drinking game, where the dice determined your punishment, whether it was dancing, reciting poetry, or even hopping like a bunny. As part of the challenge, Jong-hyun and Jae-ha were invited to sit down and play the game with the relic. If they won, they would conquer the tomb. As with most relic tomb keepers, Juryeongu was extremely confident in his strategy. Unfortunately for him, he had no idea who he was dealing with. Jong-hyun already had a master plan in mind. A few hours passed. The next thing they knew, both Jong-hyun and Jae-ha were lying unconscious on the lake's edge, but they'd won. The tomb had been conquered. With the challenge complete, the tomb dissolved and everyone inside it safely reappeared outside. Now, all they had to do was call the rescue team and go home. But just as things seemed to be wrapping up, something unexpected happened. A military unit approached, not a rescue team. These soldiers were sent specifically to take down Jong-hyun. Even more shocking, their commander boldly claimed he knew Jong-hyun's weakness. The soldiers turned out to be from the United States military. America had officially labeled Jong-hyun as a major threat. To make things worse, they tried to paint themselves as heroes, accusing Jong-hyun of holding civilians hostage even though those people were Joshua's victims. Jong-hyun stayed calm. He told the civilians to go with the American soldiers and let them escort everyone to safety. Once all civilians were secured, it was go time. Jong-hyun's team was ready for war. This time, it wasn't just Seol Ah stealing the spotlight. Even Jae-ha, usually the scaredy cat, stepped up. Using the Salieri relic properly for the first time, Jae-ha took down multiple opponents on his own. As for Jong-hyun, as always, even when surrounded and attacked from all sides, he dominated. The Hammurabi and Muramasa relic combo made short work of their enemies. Then, the American commander made his move. He summoned a mysterious female relic, claiming she was Jong-hyun's greatest weakness. That really ticked Jong Hyun off. He had actually been worried for a moment, but now realized it was total nonsense. Fueled by irritation, Jong Hyun crushed the commander in battle. And once defeated, the commander spilled the beans, revealing where he got the false intel about Jong Hyun's weakness. Jong Hyun quickly reviewed the files. Oddly, the intel was a mix. Some of it fake, but some very real. Detailed info about his fighting style and relics was accurate, raising a red flag. Who could have leaked this? It couldn't be Jin Chae-won, Miller, or even Joshua. They'd all been defeated. Then Jong Hyun noticed a small, unusual mark in the file. A dog paw symbol. That was it. The leaker was none other than the Egyptian god relic, the one who had previously escaped from Jong Hyun's grasp. To confirm his suspicion that the Egyptian god relics were behind the data leak, Jong Hyun tried summoning them on the spot, but none of them showed up, not a single one. Which meant, yep, they were guilty. Jong Hyun was furious, but there was no time to waste. They still had to get to the Pentagon. Luckily, the American soldiers they'd just defeated had left their vehicles behind, and Jong Hyun's team quickly got ready to move. But the US military had one last dirty trick up their sleeves. They blew up every single vehicle on site, hoping to stop Jong Hyun for good. Too bad it didn't work. Their commander got beat up again, and Jong Hyun was forced to rebuild the vehicles manually. With Jae-ha's help and a bit of assistance from Louise, they managed to restore the cars. Right before they left, the American commander warned them they shouldn't go to the Pentagon. Things are really bad over there. As they got closer, Jong Hyun noticed it right away. Cars were fleeing the city. Civilians were evacuating. Then, breaking news hit the screens. A massive relic tomb had opened up right at the Pentagon. Even worse, the tomb was still growing, expanding rapidly. At that moment, a familiar notification from the Crow relic popped up. The tomb is Valley of the Kings, one of the 7 great tombs. Jong Hyun's face hardened. An Egyptian-themed tomb? If that's the case, then the escaped Egyptian god relics are almost definitely involved. Once they reached the Pentagon border, their car was stopped by US soldiers. Since they were driving American military vehicles, the soldiers assumed they were enemies and tried to arrest them. Luckily, someone stepped in, Matthew Tyler, a military officer who knew Jong Hyun personally and was willing to talk. Elsewhere, inside the massive tomb, Jong Hyun's prediction was dead on. The Egyptian god relics were already gathered: Osiris, Seth, and of course, Anubis. Out of the 3, Anubis was the most eager for a fight. He'd been waiting for Jong Hyun to show up, convinced that the human was worn out and finally beatable. Osiris and Seth, however, weren't as interested. Turns out, they'd started enjoying life outside of combat. They liked watching TV, eating fried chicken, and basically vibing with the modern world. The only one who truly hated Jong Hyun was Osiris. He still held a grudge for the way he was treated. Meanwhile, back with Jong Hyun's group, Matthew Tyler formally apologized for the previous military attack. He then revealed the real reason for their meeting. The President, PF America, wants to meet Jong Hyun. We need your help to conquer this giant tomb. Jong Hyun agreed and was escorted toward the Pentagon. But just to be safe, he placed Louise inside the Van Gogh relic, a safe, sealed space, so she wouldn't cause trouble again. On the way, a group of men stopped them, claiming to be the president's official guards. They insisted on taking over the escort duty. Jong Hyun played along, but his instincts stayed sharp. Without warning, he suddenly landed a powerful punch on the supposed head bodyguard, shocking everyone around him. But Jong Hyun wasn't guessing. He knew. The man in front of him wasn't human. It was Anubis in disguise. Jong Hyun, now fired up, told Anubis to surrender. But of course, Anubis wasn't having any of that. Furious, he launched his attack, summoning wave after wave of skeletons like he always does. Too bad Jong Hyun wasn't impressed. They got wiped out instantly. Then, Anubis pulled out his ace card. With a sudden surge of power, he forcibly yanked Louise out of the Van Gogh relic. He glared at him and shouted, "I gave you a cursed relic to sever Jong Hyun's connection to the Crow, and you still failed?" That's right, Anubis had planted a cursed relic on Louise, one designed to cut off Jong Hyun's link to the Crow relic. But now that Louise had failed, Anubis decided to take matters into his own hands. He seized control of the cursed relic himself, and suddenly, the relic transformed into a giant panda monster. This wasn't just for show. Jong Hyun knew that if even one of the panda's attacks landed, he could be in serious trouble. So, without hesitation, Jong Hyun summoned Hephaestus's fire, a blazing divine flame. The fire clashed with the panda and held it back, giving Jong Hyun the upper hand. At the same time, Seol Ah joined the fight. She had recently powered up, and this was her moment to shine. Together, they overpowered the panda and shattered it into pieces. Anubis realized the battle was lost. If he got captured, he knew he wouldn't be sealed. He'd probably be turned into kebab. Panicking, he tried to flee, but Jong Hyun gave the order to rope to get Anubis cue the chase scene. Anubis ran for his life, literally crawling along the ceilings, trying to escape like a horror movie villain. But it didn't matter. Rope caught him. Dragged in front of Jong Hyun, Anubis already knew his fate was sealed. He tried to plead his case. I didn't betray you out of malice. I just knew we couldn't win against Jin Chai-won's relic. I did what I had to. Jong Hyun didn't care. He was pissed, not just because of the betrayal, but because Anubis doubted him. So he turned Anubis into a lontong, yeah, that soft rice cake, and tossed him to Jae-ha for a relic restoration session. Not long after, Seth and Osiris showed up. They surrendered immediately. Apparently, they really did enjoy watching TV and eating fried chicken in Jong Hyun's place. So when he told them to keep an eye on Anubis so he wouldn't act up again, they were thrilled. Problem solved? Well, not really. Jong Hyun hadn't rested once since this entire chaos started, and he was running on fumes. The only solution? Call Irene. But just as things started to calm down, boom! Another quake shook the entire tomb. It wasn't natural. The tremors were caused by a relic owned by Jin Chai-won. The Valley of the King's tomb began to transform, and before they knew it, Jong Hyun and the team were trapped inside. So much for rest. They had no choice but to start exploring the newly transformed tomb. And that's when things got even worse. Inside the tomb, Kwok Taek-jun appeared, an opportunistic scavenger who had snuck in during the Pentagon chaos. His goal? To find and steal the Da Vinci relic. Seeing this, Jong Hyun didn't panic. Instead, he smiled wide, cause this will got interesting, knew he couldn't go all out. Most of his relics were already at their limit. Worse, TKBM had brought along hunters, not to help clear the tomb, but to rob other explorers. So instead of fighting, Jong Hyun made the call to retreat. They slipped away and after a few turns found themselves inside a trap room. Massive Egyptian statues suddenly came to life and attacked. But too easy. The team wiped them out without breaking a sweat. After that, just one more turn, and there she was, Irene. Their backup had arrived. With her support, they resumed excavation more smoothly. Jong Hyun immediately started reading the ancient relic script carved into the walls. Unfortunately, the only thing he could gather was that several high-tier relics were sealed inside the tomb. But as for the actual owner of the tomb, blank. No information. Nada. So they had no choice but to keep going deeper. Then came trouble. American soldiers appeared, blocking their path. They had strict orders. Jong Hyun is not allowed to go any deeper. Jong Hyun didn't hesitate. He gave the signal to Irene using Midas curse. Irene summoned her relic, the curse of Midas, and attacked. But that's when things got weird. Her power went out of control. Suddenly, the entire tomb began to shake. A system notification popped up. The tomb responds to Irene's power. Defense mechanism activated. And boom! Just like that, curses rained down on the team. Jae-ha turned into an old man. Irene and Seol Ah shrank into little kids. Only Jong Hyun remained normal, protected by the crow relic. The transformations were wild, but there was something even stranger. Louise wasn't affected at all. That detail made Jong Hyun pause, and then it hit him. He finally figured out who the tomb's owner was. The curse, the age reversal, Louise being immune. This could only be the work of one relic, Tutankhamun. Yes, the relic born from the cursed tomb of King Tutankhamun, one of the most mysterious and deadly Egyptian pharaohs. And this was bad news, because the curse was real, and using relics inside this tomb would only trigger more of it. They advanced cautiously until they encountered a massive pit deep inside the tomb. There was only one way across. Rope would have to swing them across one at a time so its relic power wouldn't get detected. Everything was going well, until Louise made a run for it. She tried to escape in the middle of the crossing. Jae-ha, trying to stop her, slipped and fell into the pit. Rope reacted instinctively, stretching at full force to catch him. But that was the trigger. Tutankhamun sensed the use of relics, and this time, he retaliated hard. Another wave of curse energy blasted through the chamber. One by one, members of Jong Hyun's team were hit. This time, the effect was even worse. They didn't shrink or grow old. They turned to ash. Jong Hyun stood frozen, watching the aftermath, and somewhere in the tomb's depths, Tutankhamun smiled. When Jong Hyun came to, he found himself in a tight, claustrophobic space. He screamed. His voice echoed through the narrow confines. He was trapped inside a coffin. No relics, no allies, just darkness and the faint scent of ancient decay. Thankfully, Rope was nearby and heard his cries, but every relic had been separated from Jong Hyun, including Rope, who could only cling helplessly to the outside of the coffin. Meanwhile, Jong Hyun's team had been scattered across the tomb. Irene and Seol Ah found themselves in a twisting corridor corridor that seemed to go on forever. Confused but determined, Seol Ah took action. She summoned her relic, Gildal, and gave her one job to find Jong Hyun. But don't use too much power. They can't let Tutankhamun notice them. With that, they waited. The unluckiest member of the group, Yu Jae-ha. He had literally fallen straight into the middle of the TKBM excavation crew. At first, he thought he could play it cool, just pretend to be a lost civilian. But then, Kwok Taek Jun stepped forward. He squinted at the old man, and then he smirked. With one flick of his relic, Kwok restored Jae-ha's true form. Now, Jae-ha was in real danger. Kwok wanted him dead. He was too valuable to Jong Hyun's team. Desperate, Jae-ha blurted out, he will tell Kwok Taek Jun about Jong Hyun's weakness. Of course, he had no idea what that weakness was. But if lying could buy him time, he'd lie all day. Things weren't looking great for Jae-ha. He was completely bluffing. He didn't know the first thing about Jong Hyun's weaknesses. But then, salvation appeared. Julian Miller walked into the room, calm, collected, dangerous. Julian had Jong Hyun's location, and Jae-ha was ready to spill his weakness. Kwok Taek Jun agreed, and they started moving quickly. Julian leaned close to Jae-ha and whispered, he just saved Jae-ha's life, so Jae-ha must make his lies good. Back with Seol Ah and Irene Gildal returned, empty-handed. He had found nothing, so now it was Irene's turn. She activated her Mayan relic to search for Jong Hyun's energy signature, and when she found him, she broke down in tears because she heard Rope hug Jong Hyun tightly. Little Irene sobbed in pure jealousy. Right beside her, Seol Ah teared up too. Meanwhile, Jong Hyun remained trapped. His relics were scrambling to save him. Rope was clinging tightly to the coffin, refusing to leave his side. Even Nero tried to help, but accidentally almost roasted Jong Hyun alive with his fire breath. And then a strange voice came from below. Seobach the relic in the form of a giant earthworm slithered into view. He have a solution, but it comes with a price. Jong Hyun must give Seobach everything. All Jong Hyun wealth and relics. The worst part? He didn't have much choice because, inside the coffin, something ancient stirred. Tutankhamun's relic had awakened, and it was ready to turn Jong Hyun into a mummy. Just as things were looking grim, help arrived. Seol Ah and Irene burst into the chamber where Jong Hyun was trapped. Without hesitation, Seol Ah punched Seobach square in the face. The solution turned out to be surprisingly simple, just a chant. Once they spoke the ancient incantation, the coffin creaked open and Jong Hyun gasped as he emerged, finally free. Relief washed over the group, especially Irene, whose emotions had been spiraling the entire time. Jong Hyun, though exhausted, was relieved that all his relics were still intact. Now there was only one thing left to do: find Yu Jae-ha. Once again, Gildal took on the mission. She returned with troubling news. Jae-ha was with Kwok Taek Jun, and even worse, Julian Miller was there too, discussing Jong Hyun's weaknesses. That part made Jong Hyun uneasy, not because he doubted Jae-ha, but because Julian Miller might actually know the truth. And if he mentioned the Raven relic, things could get ugly. Amidst this anxiety, Seol Ah spoke up. What if they restore Miller's memories? Jong Hyun hesitated. In their past life, he and Miller had never gotten along, but Seol Ah was firm. If Miller remembers who they really are, there's no way he'd work with TKBM. It was risky, but Jong Hyun agreed. They had a plan now. He marched straight toward the TKBM group, Julian, Kwok, and Jae-ha. No words, just a challenge to Miller. Kwok Taek Jun smirked. He stepped back, eager to watch the show. The battle between Jong Hyun and Julian Miller exploded into motion. Jong Hyun didn't hold back, not even when Miller said he to save Jae-ha. Instead of stopping, Jong Hyun grinned and struck with his memory relic. A pulse of light hit Julian, and he collapsed. Memories flooded in, images of their last tomb together. The betrayal by Kwok Taek Jun, and Jong Hyun sacrificing himself to save the team. It all came back. When Julian opened his eyes, he was furious. Julian roared and unleashed hell on every TKBM member in sight. While chaos erupted, Jae-ha slipped away, grabbing a few relics as souvenirs before making a clean escape. Jong Hyun saw the opportunity and smashed the tomb floor, causing Julian and Kwok to fall into a lower chamber to continue their fight somewhere else. He turned back. He had to regroup with Irene and Seol Ah, but then he paused. Jae-ha had left something behind, a relic. Not just any relic, a rank S, Liu Bei's sword. Jae-ha also passed along a crucial tip. Miller's super sensitive to any relics tied to the Three Kingdoms, especially Liu Bei. That sword? It's like his natural counter. With his team finally regrouped, Jong Hyun stood at the entrance of the final chamber, just a few steps away from the boss room. But first, it was trap time. He began setting up a series of intricate traps, explosives, illusion wards, and curse-triggered relics. But before he could finish, someone unexpected arrived. Julian Miller, covered in dust, furious, and definitely not in the mood for jokes. Julian demanded answers. Why did he see all those memories? Why did they feel so real? Jong-hyun didn't hold back and said, because they were real. That was our past life. It all clicked for Miller. He'd been betrayed by TKBM. He saw Jong-hyun sacrifice himself. The memories weren't tricks. They were the truth. Reluctantly, the two agreed to work together. Although Miller wasn't thrilled with the contract Jong-hyun made him sign. But with Liu Bei's relic sword in Jong-hyun's hands, Miller had no leverage. Meanwhile, at the TKBM camp, Kwok Taek-jun had survived his fall. Bruised but not broken, he rallied his troops and stormed toward Jong-hyun's position. Unfortunately for them, they walked right into the trap. The entire corridor erupted in a massive explosion. Screams echoed. Dust filled the air. And Jong-hyun? He just smiled. TKBM had fallen. The trap worked like a charm. Smoke, debris, and half the team out cold. Jong-hyun stepped out casually, brushing dust off his jacket. He rolled out a golden sarcophagus. Yes, the cursed coffin that once imprisoned him. This relic was designed to trap anyone with king-like authority. And now, it was time to use it on Kwok Taek-jun. Kwok didn't stand a chance. The moment he approached, the coffin snapped open and dragged him inside. Now, with Kwok out of the picture, it was time. Jong-hyun and his team pressed deeper into the tomb. They arrived at the boss chamber, but instead of a throne room or treasure vault, it was a vast desert. A scorching, never-ending field of golden sand. As the entrance slammed shut behind them, panic started to rise. Far in the distance, Jong-hyun spotted a lone tree, a beacon in the desert. But as they moved toward it, the sand shifted. A sandstorm was coming. The sandstorm didn't just bring wind and chaos, it brought monsters. Dozens of them, each one oozing malice and bearing symbols of relic royalty. They serve the spider relic, and they're here to end Jong-hyun. But their intimidation didn't last long. The moment they saw Jong-hyun's army of loyal relics, their confidence cracked. They hesitated. That was all Jong-hyun needed. His relics attacked, wiping out the wave of sand creatures with brutal efficiency. But it wasn't over. The real tomb began to awaken. The desert shifted again, revealing a massive temple rising from the sands. Its gates opened, and hundreds of relic soldiers marched out. An army of cursed warriors, but the worst part? They weren't led by one relic. They were controlled by several high-tier relics working in unison. Anyone else would have collapsed under the pressure. But Jong-hyun? He just smirked. Of course he was smiling. Why wouldn't he? Jong-hyun held 3 Egyptian god-tier relics. So when a dozen Egyptian royal relics emerged from the sands, roaring and threatening his life, he didn't even flinch. And then Seth stepped forward, grinning. With a surge of divine energy, Seth, Osiris, and Anubis transformed into towering giants. Relic titans that shook the desert floor. The royal relics? They panicked. They tried to sway him, but Anubis was helpless. He couldn't fight Seth and Osiris together. Even when he tried, he looked more like a tired dog getting dragged around. A sight that made Jong-hyun chuckle. Within minutes, the battle was over. Jong-hyun had won completely. After the dust settled, he gathered the remaining Egyptian relics. He turned to the tomb's master, Tutankhamun, to bring out all the relics, every single one. Tutankhamun claimed they had already been collected, but Jong-hyun just smiled and looked up. A bird hovered overhead, glowing faintly. Without hesitation, Jong-hyun hurled Tutankhamun into the relic bird, revealing its true form. With that, the Valley of the Kings was conquered, and not a single relic remained to report back to Jin Chaiwan. With victory secured, Jong-hyun began sorting the spoils. The Egyptian relics were no joke, especially Tutankhamun's, which turned out to be one of the 7 royal relic keys, a cursed relic with the ability to temporarily boost the power of other relics. A perfect addition to Jong-hyun's growing arsenal. Then came the bird. It wasn't just any relic, it was Thoth, the Egyptian god of knowledge. When Thoth regained consciousness, Jong-hyun ordered him to reveal the secret relic storage hidden by Pentagon forces. Thoth refused, so Jong-hyun beat the answer out of him. Once at the storage site, the team quickly found Da Vinci's relic. A perfect match for Jae-ha, who instantly bonded with it and gained a massive boost in skill and creativity. As for the rest, Jong-hyun absorbed them all. With that, the group began their exit from the Valley of the Kings. By the next day, news of the valley had spread like wildfire. People were shocked. The tomb hadn't vanished. It was still floating above Pentagon soil. Jong-hyun had left it open on purpose. Why? Because Kwok Taek-jun was still trapped inside. With his enemies sealed and relics secured, Jong-hyun just wanted one thing, is to rest. Back at base, his most loyal relic, Rope, worked hard to prepare his room, cleaning every inch of it. But then came Dalby, stirring trouble. Rope's heart sank. Even worse, Yong-hyun tossed Dalby out of his room when he walked in. But Rope had already fallen into despair. That's when Thoth, still bitter, tried to manipulate her. Luckily, Seth appeared just in time to stop it. He offered Rope a real solution to ask Seobach, the relic with connections. He might know something. Rope followed the lead, but as expected, Seobach didn't move without incentive. $100 million. The next morning, Rope was on a mission. She needed money, and fast. Her first target? None other than the weakest member of the team, Yoo Jae-ha. While she was busy trying to squeeze cash from him, Jong-hyun noticed something strange. Curious, he considered giving her a little pocket money just to cheer her up. But then, his phone rang. And the caller, OS Jacob Gray, the President of the United States, a man who shouldn't even be president for another 5 years. Jacob Gray demanded the return of all American relics Jong-hyun had taken from the Valley of the Kings. But how did they even know? Well, blame Miller. The blonde genius had registered the relics through Pandora, unintentionally alerting U.S. intelligence. Jong-hyun was pissed, but he had no choice. Even Seol Ah was stunned. For the first time ever, Jong-hyun surrendered a relic, but it was all part of his plan. Behind the scenes, he hatched a bold idea. Let's give them Fake's relic. Everyone was shocked, but with Da Vinci's relic and the creative genius Jae-ha, it was actually possible to craft perfect duplicates. Jong-hyun personally trained Jae-ha with the relic, and the results? Jae-ha succeeded, barely. Exhausted, broken, but brilliant. The replicas were ready, and Jong-hyun added one final touch. He infused the fake relics with a plague, using the plague relic, turning them into ticking time bombs. Finally, the exchange day arrived. Jong-hyun, Seol Ah, Miller, and Jae-ha headed straight to the Pentagon. Along the way, they discussed Jacob Gray. He shouldn't be president yet. This future, it's already changed. Jong-hyun frowned. In his past life, Jacob Gray started World War III with General Kira. They can't let that happen again. They arrived at the drop site. Everything was ready. The fake relics, the curse hidden within, the smiles hiding daggers. Upon arriving at the White House, the President of the United States, Jacob Gray, immediately asked about the whereabouts of his relic. Jong-hyun promptly handed over what the president wanted, knowing full well that rumors about the man weren't exactly flattering. Jacob Gray was accompanied by his official relic restoration team to verify whether the relic was genuine or fake. This group is highly trusted by the U.S. government, as it consists of exceptionally talented individuals. Unfortunately, they're still no match for Yoo Jae-ha, and thus were unable to detect that the relics were actually all fake. Upon hearing from his personal restoration team that the relic was genuine, President Gray immediately wanted to discuss a possible collaboration with Jong-hyun. This was, of course, beneficial for Jong-hyun, as it gave him access to new information that the US possessed. However, something strange happened in the blink of an eye. One of Jong-hyun's relics escaped on its own. The relic that fled was none other than Anubis. He was kidnapped by subordinates of the Spider Relic. They had been tasked with eliminating Anubis, claiming that he had now sided with humans. It became clear that all relics serving under the Spider Relic were extremely hostile toward humans. Anubis was helpless. He had to accept his grim fate as his soul core was attacked in an instant. He was nearly destroyed in the blink of an eye. In his final moments, a relic named Rope tried to save Anubis. Sadly, time was not on their side. Meanwhile, an even more serious issue occurred when the American forces attempted to capture Rope. Jong-hyun immediately sensed what was happening to Rope. He decided to postpone his meeting with the US president to investigate the incident himself. Upon leaving the meeting room, Jong-hyun met up with Seol Ah and Jae-ha. They rushed toward the location where Rope's energy had been detected. There, the official relic restoration team had already arrived and witnessed the complete destruction of Jong-hyun's Egyptian relics. Jae-ha also just realized that Anubis was among them. At this point, the official restorers quickly seized Anubis, claiming they were the only ones capable of restoring an S-rank relic. They also belittled Jae-ha and admitted they were fans of Jean Richard. This enraged Jae-ha, and he challenged the team to try restoring Anubis themselves. Of course, they failed. Jae-ha then took over the task and proved that he was the greatest relic restorer of all time. He successfully saved Anubis and humiliated the so-called official restorers. After the incidents with Anubis and Rope, Jong-hyun resumed his meeting with the US president. They discussed many things, including President Kwok Taek-jun of TKBM, who was plotting to steal American military relics. Upon hearing this, President Gray was furious and promised to make things difficult for TKBM. After the meeting, Yong Hyun returned home and finally spoke with Anubis. Anubis expressed his gratitude and officially acknowledged Jong Hyun as his master. Jong Hyun felt relieved, but he still punished Anubis by ordering him to resolve all the issues he had caused, including the confidential documents he had previously leaked about Jong Hyun. After receiving his mission, Anubis moved swiftly. With the help of Rope and Tutankhamun, he eliminated everyone targeting Jong Hyun. This sudden purge didn't go unnoticed. Pandora, who had placed a bounty on Jong Hyun, quickly realized what was happening. Furious at their inability to stop Jong Hyun, chaos erupted among them. In the middle of this heated argument, Miller suddenly appeared and attacked them all. He was enraged because they had ignored his reports about the relic he had previously submitted. Elsewhere, Jong Hyun was driving through an undisclosed location. He had just reclaimed Louise, the woman who had once nearly brought about Jae-ha's downfall. Jong Hyun took Louise in, recognizing her talent and knowing that she mustn't fall into the wrong hands. During this time, Jong Hyun received a phone call from Miller. The bespectacled man had received intriguing information from Yoon Si-wo. Apparently, TKBM was on the brink of internal conflict. After the disappearance of Kwok Tak-jun, his 3 children were now preparing to fight for leadership of TKBM. Jong Hyun, foreseeing the coming turmoil, smiled, realizing the immense advantage he could gain from this power struggle. Tensions among Kwok Tak-jun's children escalated rapidly. Kwon Sung-woo, the eldest son, had an intense obsession with claiming all of his father's relics. He even ordered Chen, a loyal TKBM employee, to persuade Kwon Joo-hee, the daughter of Kwok Tak-jun, to side with them. Seung-woo needed Jo-hee because despite being the eldest, he lacked the ability to effectively wield relics. To open the relic vault left behind by their father, he needed her power. Acting on his orders, Chen went to Joo-hee's location and told her they were in danger because of Jong Hyun's actions. But instead of focusing on the warning Jo, he got distracted by how handsome Jong Hyun was. Still, despite the distraction, she did seem willing to support her oldest brother's side. Meanwhile, Jong Hyun was deep in thought, trying to figure out how to benefit from the internal feud among Kwok Tak-jun's children. This was a golden opportunity. He knew that no one else could open Kwok Tak-jun's relic vault except his children, and himself. That's why he needed to leverage one of them. As luck would have it, Jong Hyun was soon approached by Kwok Sung-jae, the second son of Kwok Tak-jun. Sung-jae proposed a partnership to monopolize his father's relics. He was even willing to pay Jong Hyun $2 billion for his cooperation. Seeing such a golden opportunity present itself, Jong Hyun smiled. He knew the perfect chance had arrived. Since Jong Hyun wasn't interested in money, he set a different condition. He wanted a share of the relics they would obtain from Kwok Tak-jun's vault. The agreed-upon split was 30% for Jong Hyun. However, he could only see and choose the relics without knowing what their functions were. Jong Hyun had no problem with that condition because he could identify the function of any relic through the Crow relic. Once the agreement was made, Seung-jae entered Jong Hyun's home. But instead of behaving properly, he caused trouble, trying to steal one of Jong Hyun's relics out of greed for its immense power. When he attempted to dominate Seth, things went horribly wrong. He couldn't control Seth at all. At that moment, Jong Hyun revealed his true strength, far surpassing Seung-jae's. Seung-jae was in disbelief since, according to Pandora's database, Jong Hyun should have been weaker. Jong Hyun laughed it off, explaining that the data on Pandora didn't even reflect 50% of his actual power. After making sure Seung-jae understood his place, Jong Hyun demanded compensation for the damage to his house. Not only that, he instructed Rope to extort money from Seung-jae, knowing full well that the TKBM heir had plenty of it. After Rope finished draining Seung-jae of 2 billion won, Jong Hyun stopped him and got back to discussing their mission. Just as Seung-jae was about to outline their strategy to defeat his older brother, a piece of viral news hit, France had just announced that one of the 7 main tombs, the Tomb of Pride, had opened. After careful consideration, Jong Hyun decided they should focus on conquering this tomb first. At the same time, Seung-jae received a phone call from Yang Chen, the most pragmatic man in TKBM. Chen had aligned himself with Seung-woo, the eldest son, to gain maximum benefit while Kwok Tak-jun remained trapped inside the Valley of the King tomb. Conquering the Tomb of Pride wouldn't be easy. France had just announced stricter restrictions on excavation teams as they wanted to claim the tomb for themselves. Jong Hyun's famous excavation team would no longer be allowed to enter. That's when Jong Hyun revealed his backup plan, using fake identities. With help from Yoo Jae-ha and Louise, both of whom were now on his side, they quickly forged new identities. The skills of these two were top-notch. making the process seamless. With preparations complete, it was time to depart for France. Jong Hyun's excavation team boarded a commercial flight to blend in with the crowd. Mid-flight, Jong Hyun suddenly realized that Yang Chen and Kwok Taek-jun's eldest son were also on the same plane, headed for France. It was a rare sight to see such wealthy men flying economy class, but it made sense. Money couldn't buy access to the Tomb of Pride, especially not under French government control. Realizing that his enemies were on board, Jong Hyun immediately warned his team. This flight could very well turn into a battlefield. To turn the airplane battle in their favor, Jong Hyun had already prepared a plan. He wrote an absurd contract designed to provoke Sung-woo emotionally. If Sung-woo were to tear the paper, the contract would activate thanks to the relic power Jong Hyun used. Rope effortlessly delivered the contract to Sung-woo. However, during delivery, Rope was caught by Yang Chen. Realizing Rope was Jong Hyun's relic, Chen ordered his men on board to attack. The TKBM troops quickly located Jong Hyun's position, and the battle broke out. Unfortunately, Jong Hyun was at a disadvantage. He couldn't use his most powerful relics, as doing so in a crowded airplane would cause civilian casualties. Meanwhile, the TKBM squad used combat-enhancing relics more efficiently. As the fight dragged on, Jong Hyun found himself increasingly cornered. Luckily, Sung Jae appeared. Jong Hyun instantly lunged at the eccentric man, using him as a human shield. This unexpected move confused the TKBM troops, making it harder for them to decide their next step. After taking Sung Jae hostage, Jong Hyun demanded a fitting ransom. For the second son of Kwok Taek-jun, Jong Hyun asked for shares and relics from TKBM. While the demand was outrageous, Sung-woo still agreed and signed the contract delivered by Rope. With the deal sealed, Rope was freed and the contract was completed. However, the excavation team hired by TKBM grew furious. The chaos in first class jeopardized their chances of landing in France. Enraged by TKBM's actions, they turned against Jong Hyun's group, initiating another round of conflict on board. The chaos spread quickly, sending the other passengers into a hysterical panic. Jong Hyun, anticipating this, had already prepared a backup plan. The backup plan crashed the plane. Now the objective was to identify which passengers to save and deploy the right strategy to survive. Jong Hyun wasn't the only one thinking this. Yang Chen had also begun executing an evacuation plan to protect TKBM's eldest son. While scanning the cabin for passengers to rescue, Seol Ah was shocked to spot a woman with long hair healing the wounded and effortlessly taking down both terrorists and TKBM agents. Seol Ah immediately recognized her, Chloe, the doctor who was once part of their team. She knew Chloe had to be watched closely. Meanwhile, Jong Hyun's plan was nearing completion. The key players, Jae-ha and Louise. Jong Hyun had secretly moved all the passengers into Van Gogh, his relic, and created illusions of them inside the plane, fooling TKBM completely. He also spread word that the mid-air chaos had been instigated by TKBM, gaining even more political leverage. As the mission approached its final phase, Yang Chen confronted Jong Hyun, demanding the release of Sung Jae. But Jong Hyun simply replied that Sung Jae would only be released after safely landing at the airport. Yang Chen responded with a smug smile and mocked the aircraft itself. As the plane exploded mid-air, Jong Hyun immediately bound everyone together using rope. At the same time, the TKBM squad deployed a powerful defensive relic to protect themselves from the blast. When the wreckage crashed down, Yang Chen scoured through the debris, only to find Jong Hyun's body lying motionless among the ruins. To make sure everything was over, Yang Chen blew up the crash site once again and fled with Sung-woo and Sung Jae in tow. But elsewhere, the real Jong Hyun and the other passengers were perfectly safe. The body Yang Chen saw? A fake. So was the Sung Jae who escaped with him. Jong Hyun had used the Invitation of God relic to pull off the entire deception. There was just one problem. The survivors had been flung all the way to the North Pole. Now, to survive the freezing wasteland, Jae-ha and Louise had to get creative. Their mission? Build a railway and train to reach the nearest habitable area? The next day, Kwok Seung-woo held a press conference. The TKBM heir expressed deep regret, saying he only managed to save 2 passengers and promised generous compensation for the victims' families. His display of compassion sent his company's stock soaring. Meanwhile, Irene and Miller watched the news coverage. According to the official report, Jong Hyun had died in the crash, but both of them weren't buying it. They knew better, and they were determined to find out where Jong Hyun really was. For TKBM, today marks a decisive victory. They're seen as heroes, while Jong Hyun has been branded a villain and presumed dead. TKBM is showered with praise and can now excavate tombs freely without interference from Jong-hyun. However, their celebration won't last long. Jong-hyun has successfully built a vehicle and is now crossing the snowy plains to reach the nearest village. During the journey, Jong-hyun realizes that the relic contract he made has been activated. Since Kwok Seung-woo destroyed the contract, all of TKBM's shares and relics will eventually fall into Jong-hyun's hands. The relic issue might be resolved sooner than expected. Seung-jae, who is traveling with Jong-hyun, suddenly remembers where his father stored all of TKBM's relics. Hearing this, Jong-hyun smiles. Once they arrive at the nearest village and re-establish communication, all the rescued passengers start giving testimonies that TKBM was the one truly responsible for the plane explosion. Amid the chaos erupting within TKBM, Jong-hyun prepares to head to the TKBM relic vault. After it's confirmed that all surviving passengers are on a remote island in Canada, the Canadian government immediately dispatches aid. At the same time, Jong-hyun is ready to leave for Kwok Taek-jun's relic vault, located not far from there. Seol Ah proposes to stay behind and watch over the passengers. She does this mainly to keep an eye on Chloe, something she hasn't yet had the chance to explain to Jong-hyun. When they arrive at Kwok Taek-jun's relic vault, it turns out to be a massive warehouse. Upon entering, Jong-hyun is allowed to choose the relics that will be handed over to him. But, as always, Jong-hyun has a few tricks up his sleeve. He knocks Seung-jae unconscious and escapes with all of TKBM's relics. Meanwhile, TKBM's shares begin to sell off rapidly, infuriating Seung-woo, who has no idea what's going on. All of this, of course, is the effect of the relics now possessed by Jong-hyun. Back in the village where Seol Ah is staying, things get even more intense. She catches Chloe secretly making a phone call but can't act on it, as Chloe quickly notices her presence. Not long after that, Jae-ha and Jong-hyun return to the village as well. After everything that happened, Jong-hyun completely crushed any hope TKBM had of recovering. He didn't just take their relics, he also acquired their stocks and even their buildings. During a major shareholders meeting, everyone began avoiding TKBM as the company was now considered a serious liability. This was especially due to Irene Holton, known as the Queen of Bankruptcy, who had vowed to go after anyone associated with TKBM. The reason? TKBM had nearly caused Jong-hyun's death. The chaos that followed was uncontrollable, and Kwok Taek-jun's children could do nothing but lash out at each other in frustration. During a heated argument between the three siblings, a piece of good news finally arrived. Kwok Taek-jun had been found. This information also reached Jong-hyun, who was already preparing his next move. Back at TKBM, they discovered that the coffin imprisoning Kwok Taek-jun couldn't be opened. The team was at a loss, scrambling to figure out how to unlock it. Unexpectedly, Jong-hyun called them and offered help, on one condition. Kwok Taek-jun must relinquish control over his relics. Although clearly frustrated, Taek-jun agreed, convinced that Jong-hyun had never actually entered his relic vault. Once Jong-hyun confirmed this, he finally allowed Kwok Taek-jun to be freed from the Tutankhamun coffin. After being freed from the coffin, Kwok Taek-jun flew into a rage. He immediately tried to mobilize all his relics, wealth, and connections to destroy Jong-hyun. Unfortunately for him, he was met with devastating news. Everything he once owned had already been taken. Shocked, Taek-jun fainted on the spot. Meanwhile, on Jong-hyun's side, various events unfolded. Rope, who had finally gathered enough money, approached Seobach, hoping to be turned into a human. Seobach almost tricked him again, but thankfully Seth was there to intervene. In the end, Rope received the long-desired transformation relic. The problem? The relic had to be eaten to be activated, and Rope didn't have a mouth. This left both Seth and Seobach puzzled. On another front, Seol Ah finally informed Jong-hyun about Chloe, who was among the rescued passengers. But just as she was about to act, Chloe suddenly disappeared from Seol Ah's sight. With Chloe suddenly vanishing right in front of Seol Ah, Jong-hyun immediately realized that Chloe was just as formidable as ever. Now the question was whether or not she had joined another organization. To find out, Jong-hyun assigned the task to Julian Miller. It was a critical mission, especially since it appeared TKBM was also seeking a meeting with Chloe. They were in desperate need of a skilled medical relic user for Kwok Taek-jun. Jong-hyun entrusted the task to Miller because he himself was about to depart for Pride's tomb in France. Back in Jong-hyun's camp, Seth returned to see Seobach. He was looking for another transformation relic that could help Rope. Surprisingly, despite his intimidating appearance, Seth showed genuine concern for Rope's despair. With a little bite of persuasion, Seobach finally gave in and handed over a new transformation relic. Seth quickly gave the relic to Rope, who was overjoyed and ran off excitedly to try it. Meanwhile, at TKBM, they were seriously hunting for Chloe. Yang Chen discovered that Chloe was affiliated with an organization called Noah. This organization existed to purge the world of relics, dreaming of a future where no one would be oppressed by their existence. In fact, they aimed to erase relics entirely. After learning this, Yang Chen began devising a plan to bring Chloe before Kwok Tak Jun, even if it meant doing so by force. Elsewhere, Rope was running around with the Little Mermaid relic, eager to try it out. Along the way, he encountered Chloe, who managed to stop the relic from fleeing, but she wasn't alone. Other Noah members were with her. It turned out that not all Noah members hated relics. Some actually sought to dominate them. Luckily, before they could take control of him, Rope successfully activated the Little Mermaid relic and escaped after transforming into a human. He was thrilled with his transformation, but unfortunately, danger still loomed. The relic came with a side effect. If no one recognized Rope within 4 days, he would dissolve into bubbles and vanish. Naive and innocent, Rope didn't understand this. All he wanted was to find Jong Hyun as soon as possible. At Jong Hyun's location, Julian Miller had returned with intel on Chloe. They now knew about Noah and confirmed that TKBM was indeed targeting Chloe. With this knowledge, they had to do everything possible to prevent her from falling into TKBM's hands. Just then, in a sudden and unexpected moment, Jong Hyun was run into by a child, none other than Rope himself. Even though Rope finally reunited with Jong Hyun, he couldn't speak any human language, so no one could recognize him. Jong Hyun and the others panicked, especially since Rope's attempts at drawing to communicate were utterly incomprehensible. In the end, Jong Hyun decided to have Jae Ha take the boy to the police station and file a report for a missing child. At the station, Rope was helpless. Luckily, the Little Mermaid relic proved to be on his side. It caused a scene, giving Rope a chance to escape. Once they were outside, though, they ended up wandering aimlessly. Rope had no idea where Jong Hyun was staying. To make things worse, Rope ended up witnessing members of Noah committing a relic robbery. He was then kidnapped and even injured by them. Fortunately, not long after, Jong Hyun arrived. Jong Hyun immediately hurled his defensive relic at the vehicle used by the Noah members. He broke in and found Rope, who was on the verge of vanishing. But Rope didn't turn into bubbles, because in truth, Jong Hyun had recognized him all along. After rescuing Rope, Jong Hyun took down the Noah members one by one for their cruel crimes. During the confrontation, he asked about Chloe. The Noah members revealed that they had come to France to retrieve her and were already preparing to leave the country. Jong Hyun rushed to the airport in search of Chloe but came up empty-handed. The next day, Seol Ah appeared with shocking news. She had picked up traces of Chloe's presence. She suspected it was a trap, as Chloe seemed to be deliberately showing herself. But Jong Hyun didn't care. All that mattered now was meeting Chloe face to face. When they found Chloe, Jong Hyun and Rope quickly captured her. Jong Hyun used a memory relic on her, forcing her lost memories to return, and causing her intense pain. But then something strange happened. Chloe's memory relic was suddenly disrupted by one belonging to Jin Chae-won. This interference caused Chloe to go berserk and attack Jong Hyun, leaving him with no choice but to knock her unconscious. Realizing that Jin Chae-won seemed intent on preventing Chloe from meeting Kwok Tak Jun, Jong Hyun formed a theory. Perhaps Jin Chae-won wanted to worsen Tak Jun's condition. Wanting to understand Jin Chae-won's strategy, Jong Hyun came up with a crazy idea. He would send Yoo Jae-ha, disguised as Chloe, into the heart of TKBM, sending his weakest team member into the lion's den. Despite Yoo Jae-ha's tears and pleas, he had no choice. He had to agree and head straight to TKBM headquarters. Yoo Jae-ha, assigned to infiltrate TKBM, was incredibly nervous, especially since he was stuck with the most talkative relic in the world, Rope. Anything could happen. Meanwhile, Jong Hyun summoned Toth to check on Chloe's condition. As the god of knowledge, perhaps Toth knew what to do. Initially, Toth hesitated. Chloe had been cursed by none other than his superior, the relic Jin Chae-won. Enraged, Jong Hyun pressured him, and Toth finally revealed the existence of a brainwashing relic embedded in Chloe's mind. Jong Hyun removed the relic, and Chloe immediately regained consciousness. She panicked, stuck in memories from 15 years ago, remembering the moment Jong Hyun was gravely wounded. Thankfully, Seol Ah was there to calm her down. Once Chloe could speak clearly, she accepted a contract to officially join Jong Hyun's team as their medical specialist. Now working together, Chloe revealed shocking news. Noah planned to discard her soon. The organization had secretly struck a deal with TKBM. Chloe was furious. Her returned memories showed that Benjani, Noah's leader and would-be king of medicine, was greedy and strayed far from Noah's original ideals. Jong Hyun assured her she was safe but encouraged her to at least scold Noah for abandoning their comrade. Elsewhere, Jin Chae-won's relic fumed in anger. The brainwashing relic had been destroyed, but Jin Chae-won only smiled. At last, a worthy opponent had emerged. As for Jae-ha, he had arrived at the bedside of a dying Kwok Tak Jun, who who clung to life thanks to his Achilles relic. Rope warned Jae-ha to finish the mission. Quickly, he sensed danger, but before Jae-ha could act, Kwok Taek-jun suddenly grabbed his hand. When Kwok Taek-jun seized Jae-ha's hand, a massive explosion went off. A TKBM staff member confirmed their plan had succeeded. Kwok Taek-jun confessed that he had orchestrated Chloe's downfall so he could recruit her while she was vulnerable. Unfortunately for him, the Chloe before him was actually Yoo Jae-ha in disguise. In another room, the real Jae-ha was safe, protected by multiple defense relics Jong-hyun had prepared in advance. Now aware of Kwok Taek-jun's vile plan, Jae-ha began to move. Moments later, TKBM dragged Chloe's body into Taek-jun's chamber. Suddenly, one of the TKBM staff attacked. It was Jae-ha again, in disguise. Chaos erupted. It turned out that both Chloe and Jae-ha in the room were clones. The real Jae-ha had successfully placed a curse on Kwok Taek-jun. By the time Yang Chen realized it, Jae-ha had already escaped by helicopter. After successfully completing his first solo mission, Yoo Jae-ha was thrilled. When he called Jong-hyun, he demanded a bonus for his work. Jong-hyun agreed and ordered him to head to their base in New York. Things were just getting started. Elsewhere, Jong-hyun gathered his team: Seol Ah, Chloe, Irene, and Miller. Chloe was uneasy around Irene at first. Her memories painted Irene as the terrifying queen of bankruptcy. Jong-hyun clarified everything. When Irene wore the earplug relic, Jong-hyun explained. Only 4 of them had regained memories of their past lives. Irene and Jae-ha were intentionally left in the dark. Their memories could be harmful and even led to depression. Chloe understood, and her suspicions about Jong-hyun secretly working for Pandora were put to rest. The team then began planning their next mission, infiltrating Pride's tomb in France. But this wouldn't be easy. France had tightened security by employing the King of Detection, a relic user capable of sensing anyone entering Europe. Jong-hyun proposed a crazy plan. They would disguise themselves as a licensed excavation team, and the team they'd impersonate, TKBM's own excavation unit. Everyone was stunned, but Jong-hyun claimed to have a foolproof strategy to pull it off. How will they get into TKBM's excavation team? Back to Jong-hyun's excavation team meeting, they decided to infiltrate TKBM for several reasons. TKBM is currently the most vulnerable excavation company. After suffering a variety of losses, they're desperate enough to recruit anyone. So, as long as Jong-hyun's team stays undercover, they'll be accepted without suspicion. Moreover, TKBM has a good relationship with Pandora. It's unlikely that Pandora would assign the Detection King to TKBM's excavation unit, as it might strain their alliance. This works heavily in their favor, and the plan is approved. Shortly after, a key player in the mission appears: Yoo Jae-ha. Without being given time to rest, Jae-ha is immediately tasked with creating disguises for Jong-hyun, Miller, and Seol Ah. These 3 will be infiltrating the enemy's base. With their disguises ready, they register and successfully become members of TKBM's excavation team. Before long, they arrive in Europe. However, the process of excavating the Pride tomb proves to be difficult. The tomb is filled with traps, making it impenetrable. TKBM's excavation team keeps collapsing under pressure, creating chaos. Amid this, panic sets in at TKBM as rumors spread that Jong-hyun has infiltrated them. The excavation division suspects that Jong-hyun is indeed in disguise, as there has been no trace of him elsewhere. This deeply infuriates Yoon Si-wo of TKBM. The rumor about Jong-hyun's team is quickly picked up by Miller, who easily blends in with others. He warns everyone to stay cautious, but their leader Jong-hyun has other ideas. He begins stealing relics from other excavators. This move is part of his strategy to destabilize the TKBM excavation team. He places all the stolen relics in Yoon Si-wo's room. When the relics are discovered, Yoon Si-wo is immediately accused of being a traitor. Even Kwok Taek-jun's first son and Yang Chen beat him up. Amid this chaos, no one expected the Detection King to arrive. Pandora has assigned him to confirm whether Jong-hyun is among the TKBM crew. Though the decision is initially met with resistance, Kwok Taek-jun's first son shows no concern, and the Detection King proceeds with his investigation. After gathering the entire TKBM excavation team, the Detection King begins his search. Unexpectedly, the side effects of his power harm the excavation team. After 2 groups have been checked, it's now Jong-hyun's disguise team's turn to face the Detection King. Meanwhile, in a separate location, Irene and Chloe are monitoring their enemies. Chloe finds it strange that the surveillance isn't just focused on TKBM and Pandora. They're also investigating the current state of America, China, and Russia. Irene explains that they must remain vigilant because Jong Hyun has many people he needs to protect, from his adoptive family in Korea to the former thugs who now live as farmers. Chloe realizes just how much Jong Hyun's life has changed. In the middle of their conversation, Irene receives a call from George, informing her that Jong Hyun is in serious danger. The Detection King is currently inspecting every TKBM excavator. His disguise is almost certain to be exposed because the Fate King has leaked information about him. Naturally, Irene prepares to protect Jong Hyun, ready to use the Midas relic. Back at Jong Hyun's location, he has already been attacked by the Detection King. Fortunately, he's able to maintain composure thanks to the help of the Raven relic. The Raven tells him that the Detection King is especially difficult to deceive because of a highly abnormal relic in his possession, the Heimdall relic. Heimdall from Norse mythology is a god said to see and hear everything across the 7 realms. The good news? The Raven is capable of countering Heimdall's power and even launching an attack. The strike causes the Detection King great pain, confirming his suspicion that Jong Hyun is indeed among the team. However, TKBM refuses to accept the accusation without evidence. To make matters more chaotic, Jong Hyun, whose disguise is effectively compromised, acts brilliantly, even bursting into tears to sell his innocence. During the attack, all Jong Hyun can do is dodge. He must not reveal the relic he's using. He tries to escape the chaos but is blocked by other members of the TKBM excavation team. The Detection King sees this as a golden opportunity, but suddenly something unexpected happens. One of his subordinates reports that Europe's economy is collapsing and even his own company is on the verge of bankruptcy. He must return to Europe immediately. Jong Hyun smiles. He knows this is Irene's doing. With the Detection King forced to retreat, Jong Hyun, whose cover was nearly blown, must now accept that he will be under constant surveillance. As the Detection King departs, Jong Hyun instructs Rope to teach him a lesson, just in case he thinks about interfering again. After all the chaos, the excavation of the Pride Tomb finally begins. The tomb is filled with various deadly traps. Ironically, Jong Hyun, who had just come out of a crisis, gets lucky. He acquires a new skill, stealth. When he reunites with Miller and Seol Ah, Jong Hyun tests the skill and vanishes completely. With this new power, he can now make full use of the traps within the Pride Tomb to his advantage. Jong Hyun quickly took advantage of his new power by activating all the traps set for every excavation team present. It wasn't just TKBM and Pandora, but every rival digging team that got caught in it. The phenomenon triggered by Jong Hyun caused chaos among all the excavation teams, as they were already quite certain that he was there. Seeing the situation growing increasingly dangerous, Jong Hyun rushed to conquer the tomb. Meanwhile, at the hospital where Kwok Taek-jun was being treated, all of his relics went on a rampage due to his worsening condition. Fortunately, at this critical moment, Joshua appeared and instantly brought all of Kwok Taek-jun's relics under control. Once the relics were calm, Kwok Taek-jun and Joshua discussed Jong Hyun, who was currently in France trying to conquer the Tomb of Pride. Here, Kwok Taek-jun took a realistic approach. The tomb excavation rivalry had to be put on hold, and they all needed to work together to stop Jong Hyun. As for Jong Hyun, he had already entered the Tomb of Pride. The tomb took the shape of a multi-story tower. After climbing a long staircase, they arrived at a large chamber and were immediately attacked. Jong Hyun managed to block the assault using Aegis. Unfortunately, the attack was so powerful that Aegis could no longer be used for defense. It was then that Jong Hyun realized the relic attacking him was none other than Napoleon, from the tale of the French emperor. Jong Hyun was confused. This relic should be of high rank, so why was it on the lower floor? This only proved that the relic belonging to the tomb's owner would be an even greater challenge. Napoleon launched another attack, this time summoning an additional relic, the Code of Napoleon, one of the 3 extremely powerful code relics. This relic could create rules that must be obeyed by everyone. Fortunately, the rule Napoleon imposed was that anyone taller than 157 centimeters had to be attacked. That was an easy one for Jong Hyun to avoid. He summoned Tutankhamun and transformed themselves into children, allowing them to escape the floor successfully. As they climbed further up the tomb, they reached another grand hall filled with troops dressed in traditional Chinese royal armor. On this floor, the relic of Xiang Yu appeared, a figure from the tale of a war general who overthrew the Qin dynasty. Xiang Yu was known as the strongest general from the East, having defeated thousands in battle. As expected, he had a massive ego and immediately wanted to crush Jong Hyun. Fortunately, at that moment, Napoleon reappeared. Jiang Yu, who was outraged by Napoleon's presence in his room, engaged him in combat. Jong Hyun took this opportunity to flee from both of them. As he escaped, Jong Hyun became increasingly puzzled. The fight between Napoleon and Xiang Yu was bizarre. Normally, relics within the same tomb would cooperate, but those two were competing with one another. Before he could finish his thoughts, Jong Hyun was was blocked by Egyptian troops. A fight was inevitable. Then, the Egyptian relic recognized Jong Hyun as the one who had conquered all the Egyptian relics in a previous tomb. Realizing he was in a tight spot, Jong Hyun fled back to Xiang Yu's chamber. Strangely, in that room, peace had settled. Xiang Yu, Napoleon, and the Egyptian forces were now cooperating to take down Jong Hyun's team. The battle was inevitable. Jong Hyun, Seol Ah, and Miller unleashed their best relics to fight. Jong Hyun even considered summoning Anubis, but Miller stopped him, warning that doing so might provoke even stronger relics from the higher levels of the tomb. Jong Hyun, however, had a plan of his own. He summoned rope and escaped the tomb, leaping down to the lower levels. Upon landing, he was confronted by angry TKBM members, furious to confirm that Jong Hyun was indeed in the Pride Tomb. But Jong Hyun remained calm. His real goal had worked. He had lured out the relics of Napoleon, Xiang Yu, and Ramses from within the tomb. Using stealth, he concealed himself and let the relics clash with the TKBM forces. As the chaos escalated, Jong Hyun slipped back into the tomb unnoticed. At that moment, he realized something important. Napoleon, Xiang Yu, and Ramses were actually competing to become the master of the tomb. That was why they hadn't cooperated, and had instead fought one another earlier. With that understanding, Jong Hyun knew there was only one solution. He had to conquer them all. The tension at the Pride Tomb pauses momentarily as the scene shifts to Yu Jae-ha, who is busy with two major tasks. First, he continues to mess with Kwon using the dice relic. Second, he's attending a grand party in Russia alongside Edward. This party is crucial because Jong Hyun has tasked Jae-ha with making contact with a British royal princess. Jong Hyun is after a relic held by the royal family. Unfortunately, Jae-ha's job isn't easy. At the event, he runs into restorers affiliated with Pandora, all of whom are disciples of Jean Richard. These individuals constantly make things difficult for Jae-ha, but Jae-ha, ever resourceful, manages to silence all the restorers and shifts his full focus to the mission at hand. Back to Jong Hyun. He continues ascending through the Pride Tomb. It turns out the tomb houses a variety of relic armies. On one floor, he is discovered by Napoleon's forces, but Jong Hyun comes prepared. He unleashes the Plague Relic, a deadly tactic he had reserved just for this moment. In an instant, the Plague Relic creates a wave that sweeps over all of Napoleon's soldiers. After a while, Napoleon finally began to feel the effects of the Plague Relic. He suddenly suffered from severe stomach cramps and an uncontrollable urge to, quite literally, expel gold. At that moment, Xiang Yu appeared and proposed an alliance with Napoleon to capture Jong Hyun. Surprisingly, Napoleon agreed, but Jong Hyun had another trick up his sleeve. He pretended to surrender and began spouting nonsense, saying things like, "Napoleon is stronger than Xiang Yu," and "Xiang Yu is more handsome than Napoleon." His absurd statement sparked an argument between the two relics, escalating into a fight. Exhausted from battling each other, both relics were left completely vulnerable, just one hit away from defeat. Unexpectedly, Ramses appeared and struck them both down, reverting them to their relic forms. Seizing the opportunity, Jong Hyun swiftly collected the relics of Napoleon and Xiang Yu. Now preparing to face Ramses, Jong Hyun was filled with confidence. After all, he possessed several Egyptian relics. Without hesitation, he summoned 4 Egyptian deities: Thoth, Seth, Anubis, and Osiris. But to everyone's surprise, Ramses didn't seem the least bit intimidated. He claimed this was when the real battle would begin. Ramses certainly showed boldness in the face of the 4 Egyptian god relics. However, his bravado turned out to be nothing more than empty talk. Once the 4 relics combined their powers, Ramses' army was completely annihilated. With that, all the major relics within the Pride Tomb had been defeated. The tomb began to collapse, but Jong Hyun took swift action. He restored it using the power of the 4 relics. This way, no one would know the tomb had been conquered. Reconstructing a tomb that should have been in ruins left Jong Hyun utterly exhausted, which made Miller deeply concerned. At the same time, everyone was stunned to sense that yet another relic was still present within the tomb. Despite his fatigue, Jong Hyun refused to rest. Driven by his obsession with relics, he pushed himself to head toward the source of this mysterious energy. This unrelenting obsession of Jong Hyun's could very well spell disaster for his team. Unfortunately, that's where we'll pause the tale of the Relic Emperor for now. Editing fatigue is real. Stay tuned for more and don't forget to subscribe.